What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers. We have UFC 273 deep dive. Really looking forward to this card. Should be an absolute banger. It is stacked from top to bottom. And as always, I'm here with the man behind the stats, Uncle Weezy. Weezy, you looking forward to this banger of a card?
Absolutely, man. We always look forward to cards, especially after a week with no UFC, but they're coming back. It's a pay-per-view, UFC 273. There's some absolute bangers on this main card, some really big star power. And then this undercard is just packed full of really interesting fights here. Can't wait to break all of them down with you and everybody in the chat. Welcome to Pub Sports Radio. We're back. Let's get into some UFC action, man, after a week off.
Yep, 7 weeks in a row. Last time was 8 weeks in a row, and we talked about it. We said it was going to be a long 8-week stretch, but I felt pretty good. And honestly, I was looking forward to the week off, in the 8th week of MMA this year. And my week off kind of sucked. I was bored. Like, I wanted UFC. I was looking forward to this break, and now I'm like, I can't stand this anymore. I want to research fights. I want to do this. I want to do that. So I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to have 7 events in a row. Weezy, how was your week off? Did you do anything more exciting than me, which was just kind of lay there for 7 days?
I did a lot of relaxing, man. 8 straight weeks of UFC takes it out of us content creators. So I really did, get a little bit of extra sleep, enjoy a little bit of TV, which I don't get much of a chance to do, and just kind of unwind and relax a little bit. But after a few days, I started working on a prop template. I started working on stats, kind of started looking at some of these fighters that were going to be debuting over the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, man, it's always back to work. And that's a great thing about doing what we do, Brady, is that, even when you're not working, part of the fun of our lives is doing what we do, watching fights, watching the UFC, man. So got right back into it. Can't wait to break this card down. It's going to be a great one.
Yes, sir. It was a great January, February, and March for both of us. And let's make it a great April, May, June, etc. Before we get started, let us shout out the chat. We have Mushroom, Misty Mushroom, first one in the chat here. We have Robot Chicken as well, Real Deal Prime. We got Mike in the chat, Go Flamingo, Banana Boat. We got Chris. What is up, Chris? How you doing? We got Donald in the chat. We have the Violence Man himself, Thomas, Snap at MMA. Mushroom, there again, NCKM. We have Tony in the chat. We have Tim. How you doing? We have Greco, and we have Endenero. We have Chronic Conversations. Shout out to you guys as well. Josh Locks. See if I missed anybody. We have Owen. Eric Betts Fights Our Dude. We have Angelo in the chat as well. Jay, DXJC. It's nice to see all you guys. Tony. If I missed anybody, I apologize, but I think we pretty much got everybody. Thank you all for hanging out on a Sunday. We do go live every Sunday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Marshall in there, Ish, Angelo, I see you all. Thank you all for hanging up. We got David as well. So I say we just get right into it. So we have a banger card here, 13 fights. And I was just telling Weezy, like, this card has been flipped upside down the last couple weeks. Like, I would feel so bad if somebody was to look into this card 2 weeks ago, because this is pretty much a completely different card. So many different matchups, so many people falling out and a bunch of different fights. But we are still left with 13 fights at the moment. And we're going to start with the very first fight of the night. And we have Julio Arce going against Daniel Santos, who's going to be making his debut. So Julio Arce is 32 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Daniel Santos, he is 27 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Daniel Santos, of course, making his debut, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. And then Julio Arce, he has 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Had that decision loss against Sheymon Moraes, a knockout win against Juliana Rosa, a decision loss against Hakeem Dawodu, a knockout win against Andre Ewell, and then that knockout loss against Song Yadong. So, this is kind of a tricky fight to break down because we have Daniel Santos, who is very young. He's 27 years old. The last time he actually fought was, I think, like 2 years ago, 2 years, 3 months, something like that. So the last time he fought, he was around 25 years old. He looks really good. He has not fought the best competition, but it's not like he's Jordan Wright going out there and fighting 0-10 bums. He's fought okay guys, but this is going to be a big step in competition. This is going to be his debut. And why this fight is so tricky to bet and call is because, Daniel Santos is a very young guy. What has he been doing in those 2 years off? I know he had, I think, 3 fights canceled. 2 were because of his opponents, and then 1 was because of him. I think he was supposed to fight like Tamir Valiev, but he's finally making his debut. Again, I like what I see from the guy. The guy's striking is very good. I've seen him knock out guys with body kicks. I think he has like 2 or 3 of them. Lots of power in his hands. But again, this is a step up of competition against Julio Arce, who has not only fought very good guys, the better competition, but he's beaten very good guys as well. So, Weezy, this should be a very fun first fight of the night. We have a striker versus striker matchup. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, it's a great one, man. It's obviously Arce who's going to have a big experience advantage here. He's got 13 more professional fights than Santos. He's got about 170 more minutes in the cage, a year more as a pro as well, and 8 more fights at the UFC level and 92 more minutes in the UFC cage because Daniel Santos is going to be making his debut. And yeah, we haven't seen him since the very end of 2019 in Brave. And he got a win over in that fight. It was Nizambek Junusov. And this guy Junusov from Kyrgyzstan, his wins are over a guy that's 15-15, and then it's all 0-0 and 0-1 guys. So it's kind of hard to know what kind of level of competition Santos can beat, because he did go to ACA and fight there as well. And he fought a couple of Russians that pretty much tried to do nothing but take him down. And, he got wrestle fucked by both of them, but he did win one of those fights by majority decision. So the guy is going to have some good takedown defense because he's fought in Russia, and he works with the shoot box guys, Diego Lima shoot box. So most of those guys have really good takedown defense as well. But, Arce's got a big experience advantage here. He's the more equal opportunity finisher. He's finished 5 wins by submission, 5 by knockout. He's landing 1.1 more significant strikes than he absorbs per minute, and that's over an 8-fight sample size against some really good competition. And then we got to keep in mind here that Arce has 93.75% takedown defense. He's kept his fights standing 83% of the time here in the UFC. So I really like Arce's level of competition difference. He's a very high-level striker with excellent striking defense, sitting at 67%. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage here. He's fought the much better level of competition. And we haven't seen Santos since December of 2019. So, it's hard to know how many more improvements we could see out of Santos, but this guy's regional scene competition wins aren't over great competition, but, he's fought some pretty good guys on the regional scene. Like you said, it's not like this guy's coming in here crushing cans like Jordan Wright. He's definitely fought some good guys, and with 2 fights in ACA, he's fought some Russian guys that they'll just put you through the ringer up there, in terms of the amount of wrestling that you have to face. So I think Santos is probably ready to fight at the UFC level, but this is Arce's 3rd fight at bantamweight now. He's fought a bunch of guys at featherweight, wins over guys like Ige, Ewell, Erosa. He's fought some high-level competition. He's got really good striking. The power seems to be translating down here. I see why Arce is a favorite. He does really have the advantage pretty much everywhere, including experience, including strength of schedule, including striking. But man, is Santos dangerous, and he throws a lot of spinning shit, a lot of head kicks. He's very explosive, and I've seen him push a pace for 3 rounds. So it's going to be a great way to start off this fight, this night, I should say.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I like about Santos. He's training at the same gym as Charles Oliveira. Has he leveled up in those 2 years off, training at a very good gym? Like you said, a lot of spinning shit. I mean, he's a fun fighter to watch. I see why the UFC is signing him here. Great cardio as well, and he's very dangerous. He can hurt guys, but like you said, Arce is going to have a lot of advantages in this fight. I like that 67% striking defense. I think that's great. I like the volume as well, level of competition mostly, though. So we do take a look at the odds, and Arce is a favorite. He opened up -160. He's currently -191. And then Daniel Santos opened up +140. He's currently +166. I'm fine just passing on this one. I'm going to say Arce wins. I'm going to say he should be favored because of the level of competition, especially. But Daniel Santos, has he made improvements throughout the couple of years he's been off? Has he leveled up? Training with really good guys. I don't think he's bad. I actually was really impressed. It's just Arce has been more active. He's been fighting much, much better competition. So I got to go Arce. Arce probably by decision as well. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. And the cool thing about doing this a week later, Weezy, we have access to all the props. So that's a good thing there. We have over 2.5 -165. The under 2.5 is +135. Fight goes to decision -145. Fight doesn't go to decision +115. Arce wins by decision is sitting around +160, +140 on some books. Santos inside the distance around +450. Weezy, any thoughts on the money line? Anything sticking out from a prop perspective?
What's that Arce inside the distance line at?
Arce inside the distance is plus 215.
Okay, that's not that great. Arce's finished 4 of his 5 UFC wins. I mean, that's really good, especially
That
at the
is.
level that he's been fighting at. So, I think that's interesting there. But yeah, nothing is really sticking out here because, both of these guys are very dangerous. Fight doesn't go, sitting at what?
Fight doesn't go to decision is sitting at plus 115 on Five Nines, plus 110 on DraftKings.
Yeah, Arce's been finished in 1 of his 3 UFC losses and in 2 of his 5 pro losses. And Santos is, like with those body kicks that he brings, he's very dangerous. And Arce being a really good finisher at the UFC level and really showing some next level power down here a weight class at bantamweight now. He looks huge at bantamweight. So I think maybe fight doesn't go could actually be kind of a cheeky look here, and you're getting it kind of at that bantamweight level in terms of how they finish in terms of the benchmark for the division. So it's not like you're not overpaying for the fight doesn't go here, and you've got 2 really explosive fighters, and it's the first fight of the night. I don't know. Maybe that's the way to attack this one. Root for violence.
That is pretty cheeky. I think it's sneaky as well. And yeah, Arce is a finisher. Like you said, he's finished all of his wins, 4 out of 5. The only person he didn't finish was Dan Ige, which you need a shovel to finish Dan Ige, right?
Man, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I think that's a good way to look at it. But yeah, great fight to start off the card. I think it's going to be fun. Looking forward to the debut of Daniel Santos. Let's see if he can get it done. But I think we're both leaning with the experience and level of competition of Arce. Let's move on to the next fight. We have Pierrot Rodriguez going against Kay Hansen. We have Rodriguez, who is 29 years old, 5'3" with a 63-inch reach, going against Kay Hansen, 22 years old, 5'2" with a 63-inch reach. Kay Hansen dropping down to her normal weight class. Last fight she did fight at 125 pounds, moving back down to 115 here. Kay Hansen, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. She made her debut against Jin Yu Fry, won that fight by submission. She lost a decision to Corey McKenna, and then just recently she lost to Jasmine Jazz DeVicious by decision. As far as Pierrot Rodriguez, she is 5-0 in her last 5 fights. She is undefeated, and she won on the Contender Series. She looked really good in that fight. I think her striking looked really good. But on top of that, she mixed in takedowns. She showed good fight IQ. But mostly she is a striker, and she's going to want to strike in this fight against Kay Hansen. Yes, this should be a very good fight here, Weezy. We have a striker in Pereira versus a grappler in Hansen. Let's see who gets it done here.
Yeah, let's see. 5 more fights for Kay Hansen. So she's actually 7 years younger here. Still only 22 years old, Kay Hansen. So we always have to keep that in mind. The age of some of these young fighters and some of the experience. I mean, she's got 12 professional fights. She's fought some really noticeable names outside of the UFC, and then, some good names here inside of the UFC as well. So, I think Kay is just going to be getting better and better at this point of her career. And we already kind of know what Pierrot is, but it's interesting. If you just look at the UFC stats from the one fight that we have here on the Contender Series, you see Pierrot Rodriguez shot 13 takedowns in a decision win, and you're like, wow, she must be a wrestler. But every fight before that, Pierrot Rodriguez is working with those hands of hers, and her hands, man, they hurt. They're really nice. If you look at some of the pre-UFC tape on Pierrot here, every one of her opponents that she beats, they look like they got thrown off of a moving bus. Their faces are completely busted up. Kayla Rocco, for instance, and I believe it was Yamila Sanchez and Gotzik too. I mean, they were really absorbing a lot of punishment from Pierrot. She absolutely has something that's very rare at this division, and that's power. So, but it's Kay Hansen who's going to be the more experienced mixed martial artist, despite the fact she's 7 years younger. It's Kay Hansen who's going to have the better grappling game here. She's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt under Eddie Bravo at 10th Planet. She's definitely really good on the ground, but we just kind of saw her get outdone by Jasmine Jazz DeVicious in the last bout and really struggle to win a ton of minutes against Corey McKenna either. So right now, I'm not exactly sure whether Pierrot Rodriguez's striking is better than Kay Hansen's grappling at this point. And I really kind of feel like that's going to be how this fight is decided. If Pierrot can keep this fight on the feet and keep it at striking range, she should absolutely be able to win minutes against Kay, even though Kay's striking is serviceable for this division. But if the fight does get taken to the ground and it's Kay that's taking it there, and she can do it and push a pace where she's working for that more seconds than she's on her feet, that's how Kay's going to win this fight. So it's just, we can't really depend on Kay to get that fight to the ground and keep it there. A couple times when she has gotten the fight to the ground, she's been reversed. She got reversed by McKenna. She got reversed by Jazz DeVicious. So, I think that Pierrot will have an easier job winning minutes on the feet than Kay will, and that Kay will struggle to get this fight to the ground for a long enough period of time to where she can either get a submission or win enough minutes on the ground in order to win a decision. So, I'm kind of leaning Pierrot Rodriguez here, but this is going to be a very close fight, very intriguing fight, striker versus grappler, like you said. And I'm really looking forward to seeing which one of these ladies gets the best of this one, because it's a good matchup amongst two good prospects here.
Yes, sir. Let's do you want to say something to the chat? He's asking Banana about how many units on this fight. For me, 0. Capper, yeah, Rodriguez has been training with Dern. I went and looked at her Instagram, and I did see some pictures with her and Dern. It looked like Mazo as well. So she is training with some good people. And then Mr. Savage saying, is Rodriguez big AF like Jasmine? And no. She's not. Rodriguez is going to be slightly taller than Kay Hansen. But yeah, Jasmine was huge, like a whole weight class bigger. So, what I looked for in the tape for Rodriguez was, of course, her takedown defense. I think that's going to be most important. And you go back and watch some of her earlier career, 2016, 2017, stuff like that. And she is getting taken down, pretty easily, but she does work her way back up. And then I just noticed, as of recent, her takedown defense looks much, much better. When she does get taken down, she really makes an emphasis on getting back up, scooting to the cage. And she's good at, her takedown defense looks good. Her get up game looks good. Everything checks out there. And on the feet, it's going to be Rodriguez all day for me. I know Hansen is improving her striking, but like you said, Rodriguez, she has some very, very heavy hands for the division, especially. I kind of like Rodriguez as well, but the big problem is if you did not get her a couple weeks ago, there's really just not any point in betting this fight because this line has completely flipped. Pierre Rodriguez, she actually opened up as a pick'em. She went all the way to plus 130 instantly. She went as high as plus 142 on Bet Online, and she's currently down to a minus 119 slight favorite. And then Kay Hansen opened up minus 110, immediately jumped to minus 150, went all the way down to minus 162, and she's currently at minus 101. I think this is going to be a very close fight. I do like the striking of Rodriguez. I like the strength of Rodriguez as well. I think she keeps it on the feet, pieces up Kay Hansen, but if Kay Hansen's able to get the fight down to the mat, like you said, 10th planet brown belt, Rodriguez is a blue belt. I think Hansen's going to have the advantage on the mat, but I just see Rodriguez stuffing the takedowns if she gets taken down, getting back up. But I just want nothing to do with this fight, especially now where the line's at. If I can get Rodriguez at like plus 130 last week, like many people did, sure. But it's just a fight I want to stay away from. Any thoughts on the money line, Weezy?
I think that there's a little bit of recency bias in this money line. We got to remember that Kay Hansen was fighting up a weight class at 125 in her last fight against Jasmine, and Jasmine's a really good wrestler. I think Kay could have actually won that fight if she kept it on the feet. She was winning the striking exchanges on the feet, but Kay Hansen's a grappler first. So I don't think she was expecting to be better than Jasmine on the feet, despite the fact that, Jasmine was way longer than her. I understand why Kay was trying to win the grappling exchanges there because that's how she wins fights. But, now that she's going to be fighting against somebody her own size again, we could see a dramatically improved grappling attack here for Kay Hansen, and she could make this look like she should have been a big favorite. But like I say, Pierre's getting better as well. She showed some holes in her takedown defense and get up game early in her career, but as you watch the more recent footage, she's taking care of that and training with some of the right people in order to get that done. So yeah, I think this is going to be a very close fight. I think, I'm not going to touch the fight goes or the fight doesn't go here because both of these ladies are really good finishers, but Hansen has only been finished in one of her 5 losses, and we've never seen Pierrot lose. So it's hard to kind of know. We don't have enough sample size in terms to determine whether these ladies are easy to finish or not, because Kay Hansen certainly hasn't been. It's a close fight, man. I think I'm probably going to say that the value is on Hansen here, but it feels like a coin flip to me.
Yeah, flip a coin. Who knows? I'm not touching. I'm not betting it. The fight goes to decision. Is sitting at -185. The fight doesn't go to decision. Is sitting at +155. See if we can find any props here. Rodriguez by KO +450. Hansen by submission +450. Hansen by decision is +240. Rodriguez by decision +140. Nothing really sticking out from a prop perspective. Same for you, or do you like anything there?
Yeah, same for me, man. This, like I say, it's a close fight, so those props are going to be super juicy. But in a close fight, most of the time you kind of just want to take that money line because you're getting close to even anyway. If you've got a strong lean one way or another, but it's going to be a great fight. I can't wait for this one.
Should be a fun one for sure. We have the GOAT, Tajik. Shout out to the GOAT. How you doing, man? It's been a while. Let's keep moving on to the next fight we have. And this is going to be a banger. I cannot wait for this fight. Anthony Hernandez going against Josh Fremd. We have Hernandez, who is 28 years old, 6 foot, with a 75-inch reach. Josh Fremd, he is 28 years old, 6'4", with a 76.5-inch reach. So Fremd's going to have a 4-inch height advantage, and he's going to have a 1.5-inch reach advantage as well. Fremd is coming in here on short notice. Do you remember who was supposed to fight Hernandez? Was it Imavov?
So Hernandez was supposed to fight Duraev originally, and then Duraev backed out, or he got hurt or something like that. He had to withdraw, and then they put Hernandez up against Duplessis. Was it?
I don't. He's had like 5 different opponents.
Yeah, dude. They've but you know what? I hope it settles on this fight, Brady, because it's such a good fight, man.
Oh yeah, it is. But regardless, we have Fremd coming in. I want to say on like a little bit over a week's notice here. But Hernandez, he has 2-2-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. The no contest was a like 30-second knockout against Jordan Wright. I think Fluffy popped for some marijuana there. After that, he did get knocked out against Marcus Perez. After that, he got resubmitted Jung Park, and then he got knocked out against Kevin Holland. I think he got submitted by Marcus Perez, actually, now that I think about it. And then he won recently by submission against Rodolfo Vieira, probably one of the worst nights of my entire life. But Josh Fremd, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. And, yeah, making his debut here short notice. And I went and watched some fights on Fremd. And, Weezy, you sent me that clip of him, like, kneeing somebody. I thought the guy he kneed was, like, dead. It was probably one of the most brutal knees I've ever seen. The guy was just laying there for a few minutes. And then he had another brutal knockout as well, where the guy was like face down. He wouldn't get up for minutes. Like this guy, Fremd, this guy has legit power. He's has a wrestling background. I don't think his wrestling is really going to translate to the UFC level, but he does have it in his back pocket. The grappling seems okay. I do think Hernandez is going to have a pretty big grappling advantage here. But Fremd, if Fremd's going to win this fight, I think it's going to be a first-round finish. I don't think he's going to have the gas tank to push a wrestling heavy pace, or B, just have a war with Anthony Hernandez. Anthony Hernandez goes to war in pretty much all of his fights. All 5 of his fights, including Contender Series, they have finished inside the distance. I don't even think he's been to the 3rd round in the UFC as well, maybe once. But this is going to be an absolute war for as long as it lasts. I do like the Hernandez side here, but Fremd is no joke. I think if Fremd wins, it's going to be early. Hernandez has been finished before. He's very weak to the body, but I think Hernandez is going to put a pace on Fremd. I think he's probably going to get him out of there mid-fight, maybe even early as well. So, yeah, this is going to be a banger. I see this one finishing. That's no hot take because the odds makers have it like -450. Fight doesn't go to decision, but for a very good reason. This is going to be a war, Weezy. What do you think about this one?
It's such a good fight, man. I had a thoroughly enjoyable Sunday because this is one of the fights that I heavily tape studied. And like, dude, Fremd has knocked out a couple of cats in scary, scary ways. He got this guy with a knee in the clinch. It sounded like he broke his skull. And then when you look at this guy flat on his back after the fight is over, it looks like somebody shot him in the head. I mean, he had like just this red stain of blood, right where Fremd caught him with that horrific knee. I mean, the sound of that was absolutely bone chilling. And then in the next fight, I think he took Antonio Jones's soul, and that dude was flat on the canvas. And even Pat Miletich, who is, a veteran of the sport and was seen a lot of stuff, was like, oh man, I can't watch this. When Pat Miletich is like, somebody get a medic in there for this guy, that it's a scary knockout. And then Hernandez, dude, could this guy be any more exciting? Could he bring any crazier of a pace? He's got a ridiculous chin, fantastic conditioning. This guy can swim on the ground with anyone. He had Rodolfo Vieira on top of him and on his back for about 2.5 minutes and never really was in any serious trouble. I got to tell you, man, this is such a great fight. I'm happy to see Fremd here because he's another all-action fighter. Great power in his hands. D1 division, D1 wrestling background as well for Fremd. And, Hernandez has got some really sick jiu-jitsu here. Both of these guys have 11 fights. It's Hernandez who has the higher level of experience here, but both of these guys have fought for an LFA title, and Hernandez has actually won one. I don't remember if Fremd got an LFA title against Valente, but I know Rodriguez, the Rodriguez fight was for the LFA title, and he got knocked out by Hobocop. But both of these guys, great finishers. 88% for Hernandez, 77% for Fremd. And Hernandez has been finished in both of his losses. Fremd finished in one of his 2 losses. It's going to be an absolute war. But the problem here is that Hernandez has a sick chin and a great gas tank, and he has this ability to be able to go to war. And the 2 times that I've seen Anthony Hernandez finished, it had nothing to do with the shots that he took to the head. It was the shots to the body. That's where Hernandez is weak. That's his off button. So if Fremd was smart, he'd be attacking that body because that's the only place that you're ever going to get Anthony Hernandez off of you. Because you can hit him in the head over and over again. He's got a sick chin. So he can walk through those shots and then put the pace on you. But if Fremd can find the body early, he can finish this guy. So I'm predicting violence here. I really do like Anthony Hernandez a lot in this spot. I'm super happy to see him back in the cage. It's been more than a year since we've seen him, but and he's pulled out of a couple of fights, but I can't wait for this one, man. Let's go Fluffy, man. I think he gets I think he gets the job done here inside the distance.
Yeah, I think he does as well. After taping this fight, I was like, "Oh, this is a great violent spot." And then looks like they have the fight doesn't go to decision at -435 on 5 dimes, and the fight doesn't go to decision at -400 on Betway. So, I mean, they're all over it. Like even the over under 1.5, which I think this probably does go under. I could see it maybe late second round. The under 1.5 is -145. I'm gonna look out for maybe the fight won't start round 3. Which on 5 dimes is like -230, which that's not even great. But Fluffy has never been to the 3rd round in 5 UFC fights, including the Contender Series. And especially with Fremd coming in on short notice, I just don't see this fight getting extended that long. So I'm going to be looking for the fight won't start round 3. I don't hate the under 1.5. I just hate laying chalk on under 1.5s. But I'm with you. I think Hernandez kind of weathers the early storm of Fremd, eats some big shots probably, but starts to take over and probably finishes him in that late first, second round. The line for Hernandez is sitting around -200. Looks like he opened up -150, and Fremd opened up +130. Is now +170. And we do have some props here. Hernandez by KO +305. Hernandez by sub +185. Fremd inside the distance is +225. Fremd by knockout is +285. So the violence props aren't great for that. For this fight, really. Fremd wins in round 1 +475. Hernandez round 1 +170. Hernandez round 2 +500. I guess the only thing that would really stick out to me would be like the under 1.5 or fight won't start round 3. The -435 fight as it goes, kind of unplayable.
Well, what stuck out to me here, Brady, was the fight doesn't go to decision. And then I audibly was like, come on, when you look at the line, because we try to, not look at the line before we start researching it. And then, you look at the numbers, you look at the strength of schedule, you look at the matchup template and kind of get an idea for who you like after you watch all the tape. And I'm like, man, this fight is not seeing the scorecards. Let me pound this at like -200. And then you see -450. And it's like, boy, was I late to the dance on this one. So, yeah, I mean, maybe throw that in a parlay, but you're not even really getting any value there. I mean, this thing would have to finish like what, 85, 86% of the time in order to even break even. So I think just sit back and enjoy this fight. But I do like Hernandez here. I might be throwing him in a parlay or just betting his money line straight because he's really fun to watch. He's got very few weaknesses, but I think that if he does lose this fight, it'll be because Fremd landed a big shot to the body.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And I don't know, like odds makers sometimes they like get these fight doesn't go props right, like minus 450. I mean that's probably right. It's not bettable, but it's probably right. But there's some weeks, and there's even a fight on this card where I'm like, why is Fremd Hernandez minus 435 fight is a good decision? Where this fight is only like minus 225 fight is a good decision. It doesn't really make sense. But we'll talk about that later. Let's keep moving on to the next fight. We have another fight that has violence written all over it. We have Alexey Oleynik going against Jared Vanderaa. Alexey Oleynik, 44 years old, 6'2", 80-inch reach. Jared Vanderaa, 29 years old, 6'4", 80-inch reach as well. So, as we know, Alexey Oleynik was supposed to fight Ilir Latifi a couple weeks ago. Latifi pulled out, I believe, on fight day, like an hour before the fight started that day. And got rebooked to this card, and then Latifi pulled out once again. In steps the man who is a walking concussion in Jared Vanderaa. I am surprised he was able to pass concussion protocols this time, but he was, and he's going to step in and fight here on short notice. So I'm actually weirdly really looking forward to this fight. I think it's going to be a very fun one, and I think it's a very winnable fight for 44-year-old Alexey Oleynik. We take a look at the last few fights. Oleynik, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A submission win over Maurice Green, a decision win against Fabricio Werdum, a knockout loss to Derek Lewis, a knockout loss to Chris Daukaus, and then a decision loss to Sergey Spivak. Jared Vanderaa, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Had a knockout win against Harry Hunsucker, who, by the way, I can't wait to see Hunsucker back in action this year. He knocked him out in the first round. He lost to Spivak by TKO. He won a decision against Justin Tafa. He got knocked out by Alexander Romanov, and then lost a split decision just recently to Andrei Arlovsky. So, this is a striker versus grappler. Vanderaa actually is a black belt, but if you go watch some of his fights, I mean, it doesn't offer anything off the mat. He's been submitted 2 times, and the weakness he has shown thus far in the UFC is that ground game. Jared Vanderaa has probably some of the worst takedown defense you'll ever see. On paper, it is sitting at 20%. And, I was actually surprised with Alexey Oleynik in terms of the numbers. Like, his takedown accuracy is 46.67%. I thought it would be a lot lower than that, but he's getting takedowns at nearly 50%. He's landed 14 out of 30 takedown attempts. And, if Oleynik gets his fight down to the mat, I think it's going to be over shortly after. Oleynik's ground game is no joke. He's like a much bigger, less handsome Paul Craig, and he can submit anybody from anywhere. So I think Oleynik has multiple paths to victory here. On the feet, I actually think it'll be somewhat competitive. You probably got a favorite Vanderaa, but Vanderaa has like a 43% striking defense. He's very hittable. He eats punches with his face. So I think Oleynik could have some success on the feet, but I think Oleynik's going to, close distance right away. I think he's going to try to take down Jared Vanderaa. And once he gets Vanderaa down, I know he's a black belt, but my goodness, I think Oleynik's going to submit him in that first round. So I like Oleynik here quite a bit. The only thing, of course, this guy's 44 years old. He has 76 professional fights. This guy's been fighting since before I was born. That's the only thing, but I think stylistically, this is a very winnable fight. And on top of that, like I said, Vanderaa is coming in on short notice. I know Oleynik's cardio's terrible, but, how is Vandeera's cardio going to be on short notice? So I like Oleynik. The only thing holding me back from betting this fight is Oleynik is the oldest fighter, I think, in the UFC, but I think stylistically he should win this fight. So, Weezy, what do you think about this banger? Two fun heavyweights here.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. This will be a fun fight for sure. The 44-year-old Alexey Oleynik with his 77th pro fight, his 16th UFC performance. This will be over 400 minutes of cage time after this fight for this guy. And, despite the fact that he's got all these fights, 59 wins in a 59 win sample size, Brady. My God, a 92% finish rate. I mean, that's crazy. 92% finish rate is fantastic when you have like 11 wins. That's really good. I mean, when you got 57 or 59 wins and you're finishing people at over a 90% clip, it shows how, dangerous your grappling game is. 78% of those wins by sub, 14% by knockout. And, Vanderaa is a good finisher in his own right, 83% finish rate in his wins. And then we've got also in Vandeera's losses, he's getting finished in 4 of those 7 losses, 2 by knockout, 2 by submission. And in Oleynik's 16 losses, he's getting finished in almost 70% of them. So that would be 11 of those 16 losses for Oleynik are inside the distance. So 15 of the 23 of these guys' combined losses inside the distance here. This is another great violent spot. The striking, it's probably Vanderaa that'll be the better UFC level striker here. But the problem is, Brady, is that Jared Vanderaa has 20% takedown defense in the UFC in 5 UFC fights. He's only stopped 2 out of 10 takedown attempts against him. He's spent 28.75% of his UFC career being controlled. He's allowing 2.27 takedowns per 15 minutes. Alexey Oleynik, over a giant 15-fight sample size in the UFC, is spending over 60% of his fights in control time positions for or against. So, for the people who think that Jared Vanderaa is going to be able to keep this fight at striking range and win minutes on the feet and cruise to a decision or maybe knock out old man Alexey, I don't necessarily see that as a path for him, because Oleynik will probably get this thing to the ground. He's getting almost 50% of his takedown attempts, and he's economical with the takedown attempts. But we know once he gets the fight to the ground, you are in serious danger of going to sleep. They call this guy the boa constrictor for a reason. He can get chokes from literally anywhere. This guy gets nobody even knew the scarf hold arm lock was a thing until Alexey started doing it in the UFC, because nobody had gotten a submission like that since the 60s, So this is a guy that is very dangerous on the ground, and Jared Vanderaa has kept his fights at striking range only about 2/3 of the time, a little bit less than 2/3 of the time. So just the data that we already have that indicates that Oleynik is way more experienced, that he's fought and beaten the way better brand of competition here, that he's by galaxies the better grappler here. And then if you want to talk about who is Jared Vanderaa won striking matches with in the UFC, because I can remember Alexey Oleynik putting it on Fabricio Verdum for 3 rounds and winning a striking match against Fabricio Verdum. A guy who, has knocked out his share of UFC level heavyweights as a champion. So I love this spot for Oleynik here, man. I really do. Vanderaa hasn't shown a good ground game at all in the UFC. Oleynik's fights are going to the ground about 2/3 of the time in his 15-fight sample size, and he's fought way tougher dudes than Vanderaa. I really see Oleynik getting this to the ground and getting a submission and getting a win here at the age of 44. Win number 60, Brady. Win number 60.
Let's go. Yeah, Vanderaa has been subbed just recently. 2019, he got subbed, and then he got subbed back in 2017. So, I think the sub is really, really on the table here. So, I was kind of surprised when I saw this line. Oleynik opened up -135. He's currently -110, and Vanderaa opened up +115. He's currently -110. So we have a straight pick him here. The over-under, it looks like it's set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is -105. The under 1.5 is -125. And this was another fight where I'm like, yeah, this has violence written all over it. And they got it right. They have the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at -375. They do have some props out. Looks like Oleynik by submission, which is something I'd want to look at. They only have +175. And then they have Vanderaa by KO +160. So the props aren't that great. I think fight doesn't go is a good parlay piece probably, but just can't bet a line that wide. But yeah, as far as Oleynik, I don't mind the money line. Honestly, it's just, he's 44. He has about a round of cardio. That's the only concern. So I might look at an Oleynik sub prop, Oleynik round 1 sub, something like that. But I don't know if I'm going to be overly exposed to a fight like this. But yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a very, very winnable fight for Oleynik. I mean, take the guy down with a 20% takedown defense, and then just on top, I think Vanderaa, I know he's a black belt on paper, but I just don't think his ground game is good at all. So, I like Oleynik first round, Oleynik first round sub. I think he subs him early on. What do you think, Weezy?
Yeah, well, you remember the Spivak fight? I mean, Spivak absolutely kicked the shit out of Vanderaa on the ground, right? And we saw Oleynik get Spivak into a couple of really bad spots when that fight did hit the ground. And I mean, Spivak toyed with this guy on the ground. So it just, and I know MMA math, I know. But look, if Oleynik gets this fight to the ground, it's hard to see Vanderaa surviving down there with this guy. He is too crafty, man. 59 wins. That is just, I've said it enough, I know, but that's too many, dude. That's a lot of wins. And I think he's going to get number 60 here. I think I'm going to be betting that Oleynik money line, dude.
Yeah, I wonder where that money line's going to go. I remember a couple of days ago, it was sitting at plus money. Would have really liked it there. And yeah, 59 wins. It's nuts. And I want to take a look. This guy has 46 submission wins. That's nuts. 46.
46. And dude, you know how it is, like where one guy's got like, a sick guillotine or great arm bars or something like that. You look, there's like submissions on his record that I've never even fucking heard of. I mean, like that you look at some of the, like, I didn't know what an Ezekiel choke was until I found out who Alexey Oleynik was. I've never seen anybody get that submission. This guy's got so many different kinds of submissions. He's literally different. I mean, he's dangerous everywhere. So yeah, great. I'm looking forward to this one. This is going to be an odd, interesting, I mean, these are two odd dudes, that's for sure. You got the walking concussion and Vanderaa, who paints his fingernails black. And then you got Oleynik, who's just like, I mean, he's just the old man, the old man with the old man strength and the crafty veteran that gets all kinds of submissions. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one, man. I'm picking Oleynik.
Yeah, Oleynik's strong. I know he's old. He's 44. He's very strong. So I cannot wait for this fight. I think a very underrated banger. I know it looks ugly on paper, but I think it's gonna be fun there. Next we have Vince Pichel going against Mark Madsen. We have Vince Pichel, 39 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. Mark Madsen, 37 years old, 5'8" with a 72-inch reach. Mark Madsen, 2 years younger, but Pichel is going to have a 2-inch height advantage. Vince Pichel is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He has a decision win against Joaquim Silva, a submission loss to Gregor Gillespie, a decision win against Roosevelt Roberts, Jim Miller, and just recently Austin Hubbard. Mark Madsen did make his debut against Danilo Belluardo, knocked him out in the first round. Then he won a decision against Austin Hubbard and then won a decision against Clay Guida. Obviously, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He is undefeated here. So, yeah, I'm really impressed with both guys. Actually, I like both guys. Vince Pichel, veteran of the sport. He does a lot of things really good. Good cardio, good striking, good grapplers. A very well-rounded fighter. And then, of course, we have the Olympian Mark Madsen, silver medalist, Olympics wrestler. He came into the UFC and just like dominated Belluardo. I think he finished him in like 2 minutes. And then he went out there against Austin Hubbard. He was able to take him down consistently for 2 rounds. But you do see, Mark Madsen does slow down as the fight goes on. And that's kind of where this is a very tricky fight to call. Because I think early on, especially, Mark Madsen's going to have a lot of success. I mean, the big talking point of this fight, you'll hear it a million times this week. The big talking point, we have an Olympic caliber wrestler in Mark Madsen training at Fight Ready. And he's going against a guy who literally has a 25% takedown defense. Like on paper, it's Mark Madsen all day, not even close. But the one thing that's kind of pushing me back a little bit is going to be the cardio. Cardio is very, very important in fighting. And I think Mark Madsen wins the first round. I think he probably wins the second round. But how does that third round look? I did not like what I saw from Madsen in the third round against Austin Hubbard. He kind of got away with it because Austin Hubbard's not much of a finisher. But, Hubbard did land a very hard knee. Madsen kind of ate it there. But it's hard to be very confident in a guy that is going to gas out. I really think he's going to gas out at some point in this fight, but is he going to win those first 2 rounds? That's the question. I'm kind of surprised that Madsen is a dog here, to be honest. Like, this guy's undefeated. There's some hype on him, and he went out in his last fight against Clay Guida. He completed 0 takedowns. He only attempted 1, and he actually outstruck Clay Guida, at least by the numbers, in every single round. It was a very close fight, but I know, Weezy, you had a bet on Madsen, and you were like shocked that Madsen got 0 takedowns. And I didn't bet that fight, but even I was shocked that Madsen got 0 takedowns. But I don't think he's going to want to do that strategy here with Pichel. He's going to want to take down Pichel early and often. Pichel, very good grappler, underrated grappler, horrible takedown defense. But what I will say, Pichel's get-up game is very, very good. So he's going to get taken down, no question about that. He gets taken down by pretty much everybody. Austin Hubbard took down Pichel 3 or 4 times. Jim Miller took down Pichel 2 or 3 times. Roosevelt Roberts took down Pichel like 2 or 3 times. Gregor Gillespie took down Pichel 7, 8 times. So he can definitely be taken down. But what I did like about Pichel is he does a very good job at getting up. So I think Madsen takes him down. I think Pichel gets up, rinse and repeat. It's just, what does this fight look like in the late second, third round is my only concern for Madsen. But I'm kind of leaning the dog here, but it's going to be a greasy fight, I think. I think this goes to decision. I think it's really going to come down to the second round. I think Madsen wins the first round at a very high clip. I think Michelle wins the third round at a very high clip. What happens in the second? So I like Madsen. I like that he's at fight ready, but the gas tank is the one thing that's kind of holding me back from an underdog shot here, Weezy.
Yeah, and that's really the tale of this fight is, the Madsen's conditioning, being able to push a wrestling heavy game plan for 15 minutes is exhausting. And we kind of saw him against Guida prove that he doesn't need to have to use the wrestling in order to win a greasy decision. But as somebody who had bet Madsen, I think 3.3 units at minus 165, I was not happy after that fight was over before the decision was read, because, I bet on a guy that I thought was going to out wrestle a guy in Guido who has, historically about a 60% takedown defense, So I was expecting Mark to win minutes on the ground in that fight and cruise to a win, but it didn't work out that way. But we did see that his striking has kind of taken the next step, and that when somebody like Madsen, who does have such an obvious threat of him being able to take you down, it opens up avenues in the striking that don't get opened up for pure strikers, right? So I think that's one of the tales of this tape that, or tales of this fight that's very interesting here. But, just like the last fight where we see a guy like Oleynik with fantastic submissions going up against the guy on short notice with 20% takedown defense, you say like, boy, those are statistics that really jump off the page in big sample sizes for both guys, So it looked like a bad matchup for Vanderaa. And it's the same thing here with Pichel. He's the older man here. He's, even though Pichel has been a great wrestler in the UFC, 23 takedowns in 9 fights, 33.69% control time for, 19.24% control time against. He gets more takedowns than he gives up. But the problem is that you're going up against an Olympic level wrestler. And the one thing that we really haven't seen Pichel do in a win is win with his striking, right? We just saw, Madsen get a win with his striking, which was surprising. And it was a very, very narrow win. But, thinking of a way for Pichel to win these first 2 rounds it doesn't look good. I really do believe that this is a good matchup here for Mark Madsen. The fact that he's younger here, I think, is very important. The fact that he should be the higher level Greco-Roman wrestler here is important. The fact that Vince Pichel, while he probably should have the striking advantage here, he's only landed 1 knockdown in 9 fights. And we've seen Madsen have a chin, especially in the 3rd round against Austin Hubbard. So, yeah, I do like Madsen to win this fight, but like you said, man, that 3rd round is gonna be greasy because all Olympic wrestlers have like a 7 to 8 minute gas tank. And it's just how it goes. That's how long a wrestling match is. A mixed martial arts fight is 15 minutes with only 2 minutes of breaks. So, that's going to be the tale now, is to find out how Madsen looks in the 3rd round and whether he can continue to push that pace. Because if he is, it means he's not wrestling as much, and this fight might look really close again at the judges' scorecards like it was against Guida here. So very fascinating fight. Pichel, the slightly better wins in the strength of schedule, and I would say the slightly better overall strength of schedule here. So, he's more experienced. He's got the better strength of schedule, probably the better striking, but it's Madsen who's the more equal opportunity finisher. Madsen's younger and the far better wrestler. So, but MMA wrestling, it might be close. So, yeah, close fight. I'm leaning Madsen.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning the plus money as well. And yeah, he's at fight ready. I think they're going to come in with a very good game plan. I kind of questioned the game plan against Clay Guida, but I get it worked. You got to win, I guess. But maybe Madsen, I don't know. Maybe he strikes with Pichel a little bit. Maybe he doesn't wrestle as much, because if he's going to go out there and shoot, 15 takedowns in the first 2 rounds, he's going to be so gassed. So maybe just be smart in terms of going for takedowns at the right time. His striking did look much better. Like, I didn't even know Madsen was that good of a striker against Guida. So he did show much improvements there. So, yeah, I kind of like the plus money. It's just the gas tank would be the only thing. But, yeah, this line kind of surprises me. Vince Pichel opened up plus 130 as the dog, actually. Immediately went to minus 150. He's currently minus 143. And Madsen opened up minus 150, immediately jumped to plus 130. He is now at plus 123, and that is very tempting for me, honestly. The fight goes to decision is minus 165. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 135. Madsen by submission plus 960. Madsen by decision, I think that's probably the most likely scenario. That's plus 275. Wow. Pichel by decision plus 170. Pichel in the third round plus 1400. I don't hate that, honestly, but yeah, I think give me Madsen by decision. I don't mind the money line of plus 123. Any thoughts on the props or anything?
I'm just writing down Pichel round 3 plus 1400. I'm gonna have to remember that one, dude. We never get these round props on Stat Diggers, so I mean that's a real treat there. Plus 1400. That's something I'm probably gonna roll with for a quarter unit or less. But I think one thing that I want to mention here is that one of the fights where Pichel really got dominated, the fight against Rustam Khamzat, it was those upper body takedowns, those suplexes that really destroyed Pichel, and he got manhandled there. And that is the style of wrestling that is Madsen's background. It's a Greco-Roman wrestling. It's not the folk freestyle wrestling. The folk freestyle wrestling is single and double legs, but the Greco-Roman, you're not allowed to shoot. So it's all upper body takedowns, suplexes, body locks, those kind of things. So I think that this is going to be the kind of wrestling that we've seen Pichel struggle with in the past, but it was a long time ago. So I think that's really important to talk about, though. Great fight here, a wrestler's delight, because Pichel, even though people are saying he's the worst wrestler in this matchup, this is a guy who's gotten 23 takedowns on 42 attempts and accumulated almost 34% control time over a 9-fight sample size in the UFC. So this guy is no slouch with his wrestling, no slouch with his grappling. But, we're just going to have to see if he still has trouble with the Greco-Roman upper body style of wrestling that he did back at the Khamzat fight.
Yeah, what would happen if Pichel actually takes down Madsen? Like, it wouldn't completely surprise me, especially a tired Madsen. Like, I think the Pichel third round is like live.
Yeah, I think I wrote it down for a reason, man. I like that look, dude. That's a cheeky one.
What about a round 3 sub plus 5,000?
Whoa, now that's cheeky. That's a party at Weezy's bet right there when that one hits, awesome. Man. I mean, 1 unit to win 50. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Why not 5 units on that? Why not
go big or go home? Yeah. Right, Brady?
Oh yeah, but
that's right, man.
It's so cool having props out by Stat Diggers time. Like, we could talk about everything where typically we only have the money line and the fight doesn't go. So yeah, that's plus 5,000. I think it might be worth a little sprinkle there. So we'll see. But yeah, I think better than that. I think Madsen probably gets it done. But we'll move on to the next fight. We have Mickey Gall going against Mike Malott. We have Gall, 30 years old, 6'2" with a 74-inch reach. Mike Malott, he is 30 years old, 6'1" with a 73-inch reach. Mickey Gall, he is 1-4 in his last 5 fights, a knockout loss against Diego Sanchez, a decision win against Salim Tahari, a decision loss to Mike Perry, a submission loss to he beat Jordan Williams, right? I think he hurt Jordan Williams and then submitted him shortly after.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like I do fuck these up from time to time because I'm just doing the I'm looking at 2 screens. That's a possibility.
It's all good. I just want to make sure I'm saying it right. But yeah, I think he finished Jordan Williams by sub in that first round, and then he did lose a decision to Alex Morono. As far as Mike Malott, he has 3-1 and 1 draw in his last 5 fights. He does have a knockout loss to Akeem Dawodu back in the day. As of late, he has a submission win. He did submit Solomon Renfro, who was on the Contender Series. He hurt him with a jab and then submitted him shortly after. But I guess the big thing with Mike Malott is this guy is training at Team Alpha Male. He is 30 years old, but he's very, very, very inactive. I think in the last 6 or 7 years, Mike Malott has 2 minutes and 30 seconds of fight time, which is an extreme concern. But from those 2 minutes and 30 seconds, he looks really, really good. He's dangerous anywhere the fight goes. He has power in his hands. And on top of that, a very good submission game. Black belt and BJJ. So I really like what I see from Mike Malott, but my goodness, this guy barely fights. He's making his debut. And I don't know, just so inactive here. So Mike Malott, Mickey Gall. What do you think about this one, Weezy?
Yeah, it's another. I'm really looking forward to seeing Malott here. Great prospect, 30 years old. Started young. I mean, this is a guy with an 11-year career at this point. So he started at 19. But like you mentioned, 11 years as a pro mixed martial artist and only 8 fights, and then like only 2 like in the last 3 or 4 years. It's kind of weird. And then he's the striking coach at Team Alpha Male. But I mean, this guy's got more submissions than he has knockouts on his record, but 100% finish rate for Mike Malott, 86% finish rate for Mickey Gall. So in 14 combined wins, 13 of them are inside the distance for these two guys. So this is a potential great violence spot right here. And we've seen Malott finished in his only loss, and Gall was finished in one of his 4 losses. And Gall has got a conditioning problem because he's a guy that has absolutely fallen off a cliff going into the second round of a couple of fights. It looks like he's fixed it a little bit more lately, but still, that's something that we know has been there before, and it could, rear its ugly head again. But it's hard to know what Mallett's conditioning is like because we've seen him go to decision once, and that was a draw. And yeah, it's fun to watch this guy though because he's really smooth on the feet. It's fun to watch this guy strike. He throws really straight punches. He's very technically sound, throws big kicks. And then when he's on the ground, he's very aggressive on the ground, hunting for submissions, whether he's on top or on the bottom. He's just a really well-rounded guy. And the one time we do see him go to a decision against Dion in Bellator, the conditioning looked like it was there for me. So it's just that he dominated the first round, and then the second and the third rounds were both 50-50, but evidently 2 judges gave the other kid the second and third rounds, and he that one wound up being a majority decision draw. So Gall, the conditioning problem worries me, but he's obviously fought the better brand of competition, fighting guys like Randy Brown, like Alex Morono, Mike Perry, Diego Sanchez. There's some pretty good names on his resume here. And 10 fights at the UFC level in comparison to Mike Malott, only 8 pro fights and only 1 of them at the UFC level. But like the violence here, it also should be noted that Malott has fought at 145 and 155 in his career. Now he's fighting at welterweight. His last 2 fights have been there. That's his new home. But, Gall is going to be one of the biggest opponents that he's ever seen before. So I do like Malott here. I think he's the more well-rounded guy. I think he's more dangerous everywhere. But it's Gall who's got the experience. They're the same age. It's going to be Gall who's going to be a little bit bigger, a little more experienced, and who's fought the better brand of competition here. And we know that Gall is no slouch on the ground, and he's got decent striking too. So I think it's going to be a pretty close fight, man.
Yeah, it should be close. I mean, it's a stay away fight for me in terms of the line, especially when you hear the line because of the inconsistency in terms of the amount of performances Malott's had in the past couple of years. And on top of that, I do not really like the striking defense. I don't think Gall is going to be like a huge problem for him on the feet, but we have seen Gall striking improve a ton. Like he hurt Jordan Williams twice in that first round. So I guess the chin of Malott is concerning, the striking defense of Malott's concerning, but I think he's going to have some advantages here. So yeah, I think Malott's going to probably finish Gall. Like you said, Gall does have a conditioning problem. I remember the Diego Sanchez fight where Sanchez was able to take him down 4 times and just kind of beat him up on the ground. I think kind of the same thing here. I think Malott's going to submit him at some point in this fight. But yeah, he's no slouch, but the cardio is not there. Gall is a black belt. His striking's improving. I just think Malott's very, very dangerous anywhere the fight goes. So I like Malott ever so slightly, but I'm not going to touch the money line. But this was one I did look into. I looked into, I think, 3 or 4 fights last week. This was one I looked into to get on the fight doesn't go to decision early because it really did stick out, and I liked what I saw. So Malott, he's currently sitting at minus 200, open up minus 140, and then Mickey Gall open up plus 120, is currently plus 170. The fight doesn't go to decision, open up minus 135. It's now minus 240. The fight goes to decision, open up minus 105. It's now plus 180. Over under is set at 2.5 rounds to over 2.5 plus 140. Under 2.5 is minus 170. We'll take a look at some props here. Malott by submission plus 350. Malott by KO plus 175. Gall by KO plus 800. Gall by submission plus 350. Anything sticking out from the props, and then thoughts on that money line?
Yeah, I think the fight doesn't go to decision is a great look for this fight. I can't believe that opened at
That's
plus
crazy.
money. Did you say that the fight doesn't go open at plus money?
It opened up at minus 135, which is nuts.
Okay. Still, man, I would have loved to have bet that line. That would have been a really good one. I would have smacked that for a good
Oh, yeah.
2.7 units at least. But yeah, other than that, this is going to be an interesting one. I can't go all in on Mallet because we just haven't seen him fight enough lately. I mean, this guy has only got 26 minutes of pro cage time. I mean, that's crazy. And that's in 11 years. So this guy fights about, 2.5 minutes a year.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to know, how's he going to look? We've seen a lot of Mickey Gall. We've seen Mickey Gall fight 10 times just in the UFC. So, some of it against some of the lowest level competition the UFC has ever seen, and Mike Jackson and CM Punk and Salim Touari. But still, this guy's been fighting better guys. So, yeah, I'm going to stay away from this one, I think, for the most part. But the fight doesn't go would be something I would be taking a look at, even though it's moved.
Yeah, for sure. And I do want to say we have 272 people in here, which that's a ton. I don't know if it's a record or not, but thank you all so much for hanging out. Do appreciate it for breaking down 273. If you guys could please leave a like. We do appreciate that a ton. And we're going to move on to the next fight. And we have Aspen Ladd going against Raquel Pennington. Ladd, she is 27 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. Pennington, she is 33 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. So Ladd's going to be younger by 6 years, but it's going to be Pennington that's going to have a 1-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage as well. Aspen Ladd, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. She has a knockout win against Tanya Evinger, a decision win against Ciara Eubanks, a knockout loss to GDR, a knockout win against Yana Kanutsakaya, and then a decision loss to Norma Dumont. As far as Pennington, 4-1 in her last 5 fights, a decision win against Irene Aldana, a decision loss against Holly Holm, a decision win against Marion Renault, decision win against Pani Khamzat, and then a submission win against Macy Chiazon. So, yeah, this is a fight where I actually like Pennington quite a bit. I think Pennington's going to have the strength advantage. I think she's fought the better competition. I think she's more experienced as well. And on top of that, you take a look at who Pennington's lost to, and she is losing to some of the best fighters in the division. She lost to Amanda Nunes back in the day. She got knocked out in the 5th round. On top of that, she's lost to Holly Holm back in 2020. She also lost to Holly Holm back in 2015. She lost to Jessica Andrade. She lost to GDR. So when she's losing, she is losing to some of the best opponents in the division. And now she's on a 3-fight win streak. Marion Renault, Pani Khamzat, Macy Chiazon. She's been looking really good. So she is coming in on short notice, but I just think it's a good matchup for her. I mean, Aspen Ladd, I think she's going to have to get this fight down to the mat. I think it's going to be easier said than done. I like the strength of Pennington, the physicality of Pennington, the takedown defense of Pennington. And I think on the feet, it's just going to be Pennington all day. Aspen Ladd, it did take like a 2-year layoff prior to the Dumont fight. And I kind of expected improvements, but that was like the worst Ladd we've ever seen. Like I had a bet on Dumont in that fight, and I could barely watch it. Like I think I turned the fight off in like the 3rd round. It was one of the worst fights I've ever seen. And Ladd came out early on in the 1st round with like a weird stance, and I don't think she landed like one strike in like the first 3 or 4 minutes. It was the weirdest thing ever. And then that was the fight where her corner was like yelling at her really bad. It kind of went viral a little bit, and she finally started going for takedowns like late in the fight, and then she just couldn't get them. So I think on the feet, it's Pennington for me all day. I like Pennington's striking defense, 62%. Ladd's is 49%. I like the volume of Pennington as well. And then I just don't think Ladd's going to be able to take down Pennington and control her on the mat. So I like Pennington. I like her to win probably by decision, but this is a fight where I don't really want to bet it, but I think Pennington does get this done. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's a great stylistic matchup here. Obviously, Pennington is going to be much more experienced here. 10 more fights, about 200 more minutes of cage time, 9 more fights at the UFC level, 150 more minutes in the UFC cage. But it's Ladd's the better finisher. 78% of those 9 wins are inside the distance, while Pennington has a below 40% finish rate. So, it's four finishes and 21 wins or 21 fights for Pennington. So Ladd is the kind of girl that when she gets that top position, she's extremely dangerous. She's got 3 knockout wins in the UFC. They're all ground and pound, I think. and she's only got 6 takedowns. I mean, if you think about that, there's a 50% chance that if this girl takes you down, the fight's going to end. And she is relentless when she gets on top. I don't remember what I said last time, what she sounds like when she's on top, but it's fucking weird, and she's kind of terrifying when she's on top. She pretty much empties the tank and she goes to finish, and that's a great quality to have. Lad absorbs a few more strikes than she lands at the UFC level. Only 50% striking defense. We don't like seeing that. And she had a lot of trouble taking down the very thick, very bottom heavy Norma Dumont. But Norma's got fantastic takedown defense. So we've seen, look, Aspen Ladd's one of these girls that's great on top, but look, 13 takedown attempts in 6 UFC fights. So it's not like she's out there spamming takedowns. She's out there waiting to set up that takedown, get the one that presents itself. And when it does, she wants to hold you there and finish the fight. And Pennington has been a master of winning minutes on the cage in the UFC. That's where she does some really great stuff, is by working, getting your back up against that cage, wearing you out there, being really good in close, dirty elbows, dirty boxing. And look at Pennington's fights over a 15-fight sample size. She's spending about 49% of her fights in control time positions, either for or against. And she only gets 1 takedown per 15 minutes, and she allows just more than 1. So we can tell that those control time positions are taking place more on the cage than they are on the ground. So I see the love for Pennington here. Pennington has fought the tougher brand of competition. She's beaten the better brand of competition, and she's lost to the better brand of competition here. She is the better clinch striker. It'll be Ladd that's probably got the better top game. And at distance, Raquel Pennington's going to be the better striker here. It's just that, she's 6 years older. And that Ladd has just got that terrifying top game. And she's just going to have to really worry about not winding up underneath this girl. And we're also going to have to be very cognizant of how Aspen Ladd looks on those scales here. I mean, if you're thinking of betting Ladd, I would recommend to wait until after weigh-ins to do it because, she's just had problems making 136 lately. And she even got pushed up to 145, and she found out that she's not thick enough to deal with girls like Norma Dumont up there, especially not Norma. I mean, come on. Is there a thicker 145er in the world right now than that young lady? I haven't met her yet. So, this is going to be a good one, man. I do see the love for Pennington here. There's a lot of things to like in her game here, and the level of competition that she's beating lately is very good. And like you said, she only loses to the best. The average UFC record of the woman that beats Raquel Pennington is 8.6 wins and 4.2 losses, 2.05 win-to-loss ratio, and almost 13 fights. So that's the cream of the crop.
Yeah, I mean, people were betting Pennington. I know Clint got on Pennington, I think like a week and a half ago, around like minus 150. I would have loved that line. It's just now she's like minus 200. And at that point, I'm like, I'm probably going to pass, but I do like Pennington here. I think if you got in early, she opened up minus 145. Fantastic. She was like minus 135 at some point. But, she's been getting bet, pretty much all week, last week and a half, now minus 200. And we're going to see a lot of lines like this coming up where the favorite just got smacked all week and last week and a half, 2 weeks. And this is one of them. So I think at this point, I'm going to pass on the minus 200. If you want a better price on Pennington, I think Pennington by decision at plus money is not the worst look in the world. I see plus 105 on FanDuel, plus 100 on DraftKings. So I think Pennington by decision would be the one way I would bet it. Aspen Ladd is plus 170 at this point. Not sure where the line's going to go, but it looks like a lot of love for Pennington even now at this minus 200 line. Ladd by KO plus 800. If you think Ladd can get the finish, which she's been a good finisher, Ladd by KO is plus 800. Ladd by sub plus 1600. Ladd inside the distance is plus 550. And then Pennington, like I said, I think her most likely path to victory is that plus 110 decision. But I don't think I'm going to pull the trigger on it. Any props sticking out? Any thoughts on that money line?
Yeah, Pennington in her 10 UFC wins has got 3 submissions and 7 decisions, so I do like her to win this one by decision, because we've never seen Aspen Ladd submitted. She's been knocked out once, but Raquel's never won by knockout in the UFC. So probably the way to get value on Raquel now, if you miss the money line movement, is to better by decision here. But, I think Ladd could be, what's the Ladd by KO?
It was like plus 800, plus 850.
See, dude.
Juicy.
Yeah, I mean, she's won 3 of her 4 UFC wins have been by knockout, and she got a decision win over Sijara Eubanks, who's, very, very tough. So I could definitely see a Ladd knockout here if she does get on top, man. She's scary there. So at plus 800, that could be a really, nice thing to put an eighth of a unit on. And you're up a unit if that hits. So you could do, it's a nice low cost, high upside option there if you think Ladd has a chance to win this one. But I think Pennington by decision is probably the best call here.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. Aiden saying Ladd to not make a weight would be a great line. And yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, she looked awful like the past 2 times, right? When she was fighting at 135, especially the GDR fight. That was bad.
Oh, God, the GDR fight, man, that was hard to watch. That was really hard. She was crying and shaking, man. That was nasty.
That was one of the worst I've seen. So we'll see the weigh-ins coming up. But yeah, should be an interesting fight there, Ladd, Pennington. Let's keep moving on. So did you know, or have you heard for certain if they're going to move the Rozenstruik-Tybura fight to the main card, or have they figured out the 5th fight that's going to be on the main card yet for the pay-per-view?
Yeah, that would be interesting, right? If Tabura Rozenstruik got bumped for Gary Weeks, Gary 8 professional fights, Weeks, I think 6 professional fights, each one of them with only 1 UFC level fight. And you got guys like, Rozenstruik and Tybura who have fought the cream of the crop of the heavyweight division. So, I'd be surprised but the last time I looked at UFC stats, they had Weeks Gary on the main card. Let me look again right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was kind of
they're still showing it as the kickoff for the main card, Gary Weeks.
I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying. But we'll see what that does throughout the week. But yeah, Rozenstruik-Tybura up next. We have Rozenstruik, who is 34 years old, 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. Tybura, 36 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. Like you said, Weezy, this is a very high level heavyweight matchup. Rozenstruik 2 years younger, but it's going to be Tybura that's going to have a 1-inch height advantage. And is Rozenstruik the guy we always talk about where on paper he's 6'2", but he's actually 5'10"?
Yeah, that's the guy. And I think if I'm not mistaken, he told the UFC he was 6'4" when he first came into the UFC, and he was listed at 6'4" for his first couple of fights, I think. I might be wrong about that, but I think he's that big of a liar.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember he was fighting who was it? Was it Gone? I think he fought Gone, and Gone I think is like 6'4", and Gone was just like towering over Rozenstruik. Like this, Rozenstruik's 5'9". I don't care what anybody says, but Tybura is going to be the bigger fighter here. So Rozenstruik is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a knockout loss to Francis Ngannou, a knockout win against Junior Dos Santos, a decision loss to Cyril Gane, and a knockout win against Augustus Sakai, and then a decision loss against Curtis Blades. So obviously losing to some of the best guys in the division. Marcin Tabura, 4-1 in his last 5 fights on a pretty good run here. Besides his last fight against Volkov, where he did lose by decision, he did shoot like 16 takedowns in that fight, was not able to get one. But prior to that, this guy was on a roll. He knocked out Walt Harris in the first round, knocked out Greg Hardy in the second round. He won a decision against Ben Rothwell, and then he won a decision against Maxime Grishin. So, we have a fun heavyweight fight here. I'm looking forward to it. Rozenstruik's going to want to keep this on the feet. Tybura is going to want to get this fight down to the mat. Rozenstruik has a ton of power. I went back and watched some of his earlier fights, and this guy's been pretty active thus far in the UFC. I went back and watched the Crowder fight where he dropped Crowder with the jab and like the first punch he landed and then finished him on the mat. And then he also knocked out Andrei Arlovsky in the first round as well. Rozenstruik has a ton of power. I think it was his debut or one of the very first fights he had against Junior Albini. Went back and watched that fight, and Albini was able to take him down. Albini was able to get into mount. It was not a good look, but since then, Rozenstruik, he's training at a good camp. He's really improved that takedown defense. He's improved that get-up game. He has a 75% takedown defense as of now, and as of late, he got taken down by Blades, he got taken down by Gane, and then he also got taken down by Overeem. But I thought, there would be a huge hole in the game of Rozenstruik because of the Albini fight, but he has proved me wrong a lot because he's not going out there and getting like completely dominated by some of these guys on the mat outside of Blades, which I think we can give him the pass for that. But Tabura, if Tabura can get on top, Tabura is a black belt in BJJ, a legit heavyweight black belt, unlike Jared Vanderaa. But when he gets on top, his ground and pound is very good. He is position over submission, and this guy's dangerous on top. So Tabura is going to want to get this fight down to the mat. Rozenstruik's going to want to keep it on the feet. Is Rozenstruik going to knock out Tabura before he gets him down? Yeah, we'll have to see. But this is a very fun fight. I'm looking forward to a very high-level fight on the prelims as of now, Weezy.
For sure, man. I mean, great striker versus grappler matchup. It's Tabura, who's a lot more experienced as a mixed martial artist here. 14 more pro fights, 180 more minutes in the cage, about 6 more months as a pro, 6 more UFC level fights, 100 more minutes in the UFC cage. And he's the more diverse guy here. 41% of his pro wins coming by knockout, Tabura, 27% by submission, while Rozenstruik is a former kickboxer who just knocks people out. 92% knockout rate as a pro, 11 of 12 wins inside the distance by knockout, and he's been knocked out in one of his 3 UFC losses. That was to Ngannou. Yeah, I think that guy's got pretty good hands, so we can forgive him for that. But yeah, Tabura is got decent striking numbers here. He lands more than he absorbs. He does have 1 knockdown. He's got 55% striking defense, which isn't great. But Jairzinho also here, I mean, like he absorbs a little bit more than he lands. But I mean, this guy's landing a knockdown on 2.5% of the so that's 6 knockdowns for Jairzinho Rozenstruik in 9 fights. So this guy, like you said, he's got legendary power, and it translates. I mean, whether it's the first jab that he throws or the last punch that he throws in a 5-round fight against against Overeem, he carries that power to the very last second of the fight. So very, very dangerous on the feet. And Tabura, outside of that Volkov fight where he shot something like 16 or 18 takedowns, he hasn't been that active with the takedown attempts. You'd like to see him a lot more active with them, at least at the Volkov level in this fight, because, there's no point in trying to win minutes on the feet with Rozenstruik, because even if you're successful doing it for 7 or 8 minutes, he's such a great counter striker. He's so patient. He'll wait for his strike to open up, and when it does, he will land it, and you're going to go down. So I think that Tabura really does need to push a grappling heavy game plan here, make Jairzinho very uncomfortable. And I'll be looking at the Tabura KO prop, and I think fight ends by KO is a great way to play this fight, because what's interesting here is as a pro, Tabura has 27% submission wins, 41% knockout wins. But as a UFC fighter, 5 wins by decision for Tabura, 4 by knockout. And this guy's getting positional knockouts on the ground. Like you said, he's a position over submission grappler here, and that's probably his most likely path. So we could look at the fight doesn't go to decision here. That would probably be real good, as Rozenstruik has won all 6 of his UFC wins are inside the distance by knockout. And Tabura has finished 4 of his 9 wins. So that's 10 of 15 wins coming inside the distance. And of the losses here, it's 3 of 6 for Tabura and 1 of 3 for Rozenstruik. So that's 4 of 9. So that's almost 50%. But I think it's the strengths and weaknesses of both fighters here that make this more likely to finish, because it's a striker versus grappler matchup. The longer this stays on the feet, you think that Rozenstruik's going to be very live for a knockout. And Tabura has been knocked out in 3 of his 6 UFC losses and 4 of his 7 pro losses. So, and Rozenstruik's biggest hole is on the ground. And if Tabura gets on top of him, he's probably getting ground and pounded out. Fight ends by KO is a very interesting way to look at this. If you look at the strength of schedule, it's actually Rozenstruik who has beaten and fought the better competition here and lost to the better competition. So Rozenstruik, even though he's a little less experienced, he's the younger guy. He's the better striker. He's got the better strength of schedule, and he's got the better since all fights start on the feet, he's got the advantage in terms of it's going to be Tabura having to get the fight to the ground in order to be successful, while Rosenstruik will be able to be successful on the feet here. So yeah, great fight. I think the fight ends by KO is something I'm going to be looking at for this one, man.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot. This was one of the fights I did tape last week. I saw the fight doesn't go decision sitting at -155. It's not there anymore, but I ended up passing on it. I think this fight probably does finish, and I do lean towards Rosenstruik. Like you said, every fight does start standing, and I was actually kind of impressed with his takedown defense, like in the Gone fight, and the Curtis Blades fight. I think we can kind of throw that out, and then I'm not overly impressed with the wrestling of Tybura. I think in his last fight against Volkov, he went like 0 for 16. He was able to get Harris down. He was able to get Hardy down, Gresham, but those guys don't have great takedown defense. And Hardy and both Harris gassed in that fight. But I do want to say breaking news. Shout out Big Marcel Weezy. Listen to this. June 25th, Alain Badeau versus Josh Parisian.
Dude, what?
Could that be the worst?
You prick, Brady. I'm pissed off at you because we got to wait 2.5 months for that fight, and you're bringing that shit up to me now. I mean, this is like a kid on Christmas being told, "Oh no, it's not going to be December 25th this year." Now you got to wait till fucking St. Patrick's Day. So thanks for that, man. I mean, the fight of the year, and now I got to wait 2.5 months for it and go to bed every single night praying that one of these two guys doesn't fall out of this absolute banger of a matchup. Badeau Parisian. That'll be the first UFC poster that goes up on my wall, Brady.
Dude, I mean, the matchmaker, what they do, sit there and say, let's make the shittiest heavyweight fight possible. Let's take Badeau and let's take, like, you can't make a shittier UFC heavyweight fight. I mean, maybe Hunsucker in there, but
I think you'd have to get Jorgen De Castro's agent on the line.
Maybe De Castro, Hunsucker, Badeau. That's
who
bad.
else? I mean, who else would be that bad? God,
Juan Adams. Juan Adams, he was pretty bad.
Yeah, he was pretty bad. But yeah, I mean, Greg Hardy absolutely slept that dude for sure.
So there we go. I mean, breaking news. You heard it here first. Just kidding, but yeah. So we have that. But yeah, back to this fight. We have Rosenstruik is the favorite. Opened up -140 is now -158. Tybura opened up +120 is now +138. The fight goes to decision +155. The fight doesn't go to decision -185. And like you said, Weezy, the fight ends in KO is going to be something to look at. But FanDuel does not have their props out for this fight yet. But I think fight ends in KO could be solid depending on the line. Tybura by KO +400. Rosenstruik by KO +120. Other than that, nothing really sticks out. Anything sticking out for you?
Tabura by KO is interesting because I think that's his path. He's not like a huge minute winner on the ground, so I don't really see him like taking down Rosenstruik in each of the 3 rounds and having top control for 3 minutes and winning the fight that way. So I kind of feel like Tabura's path is get the takedown, get the ground and pound finish. But if that doesn't happen, I think Rosenstruik can knock out Tabura. I think Rosenstruik can win a striking-based decision here. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's one prop that actually does stick out, but I'd like better than +400. I'd like to wait for maybe +500 or +600.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be betting this fight as of now, unless they give us like a good line on that fight ends in by KO, maybe, but we'll have to see. But yeah, should be a very good fight. Let us move on to the next fight. We have Ian Gary going against Darian Weeks. We have Gary, who is 24 years old, 6'3" with a 74-inch reach. Darian Weeks, 28 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. It's going to be Gary with a massive tail of the tape advantage. He's going to be 4 years younger. He's going to have a 4-inch height advantage, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. And Gary is training at Sanford MMA. Gary is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He is undefeated, obviously, and he did make his debut against Jordan Williams. He won that fight by KO. We'll talk more about that fight in a second, but Darian Weeks also made his debut in his last fight against Brian Barberena, lost a very close and competitive decision there, and he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Darian Weeks, 6 professional fights, but you go and look at his amateur career. He has a ton of amateur fights, and this is a fight where, I don't know, I mean, Gary, this guy looks like the real deal to me. I had a big bet on him against Jordan Williams in his last fight, and I was not feeling good for 90% of the fight up until he knocked him out. But I guess the one thing that stuck out to me when I was researching that fight before the Williams fight was that his striking defense is not good. He's very hittable. He kind of backs up with his hands down, chin up, and I don't like that. And that was like the one thing that I was worried about going into the Jordan Williams fight, because other than that, Gary, I like this guy. He has great cardio. He has great striking. He has great takedown defense. He has great grappling. I mean, this guy is just very well-rounded, and he's very young as well. It's just that one thing is that striking defense is terrifying, honestly. I went back, I was like cringing at, how Gary looked in terms of the striking defense. Hands down, chin up. Williams was landing clean on him, landing hard on him, piecing him up. It was just not a good look. And then luckily, Jordan Williams is extremely chinny. Gary finished him in the first round. I cashed my bet, but I did not feel great about it because Gary was losing that fight up until he knocked him out. So, yeah, this is a fight where I don't know. Darian Weeks, he's a really good wrestler. He's a solid striking as well. I've seen him knock guys out, a 100% finish rate thus far in his pro career. And I don't think he's going to have a lot of success in terms of taking down Gary. I think he's going to try to, but Gary's takedown defense is very, very good. His grappling's very good. It's going to be much harder to take down Gary than it was to take down, say, Brian Barberena. But on the feet, I mean, for Darian Weeks to win, he's probably going to have to knock out Gary. And, I mean, it could happen. Gary is very defensively irresponsible, but I think I get why Gary is a favorite. I get why he's a big favorite, but I don't know if I like the line where it's at now. We'll talk more about the line, but, you got to like Gary here. I like the cardio. I like the well-roundedness, the striking. I think he's going to be winning minutes on the feet. I think maybe even he can take down Weeks as well, but the strike and defense is what's going to keep me off of Gary for the future, especially at minus 400. So I like Gary to win. I like Gary to probably win by decision. Weeks is very tough, but the strike and defense just it's making me stay away, especially at minus 400. Weezy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very wide line. And then you look at all the stats, and Weeks is 4 years older. It's Gary, who's just a huge welterweight, though, at 6'3", and he just really looks the part. When you watch this dude fight, the striking looks really clean. He gets a lot of takedown attempts thrown his way, but he's always working his way out of bad positions, getting back to his feet when people do try to grapple him. He can absolutely reverse position and get takedowns of his own. And then you look at Weeks, and the one thing that really needs to be talked about with Weeks is that Barberena fight was short notice, man. And I mean, I'm telling you, dude, that was a really good performance on short notice as a UFC debut against a guy like Barberena, who's fought everybody. And Weeks won that second round, man. I mean, he really won that second round. And that third round was very, very close. It's just that Barberena landed a really clean shot in the last 10 seconds. If he didn't land that shot, man, I think that Barberena might have lost that fight to Darian Weeks, and this line would be looking a lot different here. But I get it, man. Gary's a prospect, still only 24 years old, undefeated, 3-year career. But these guys started their MMA careers a week apart from each other. 3 years, 1 month, 16 days ago for Ian Gary. 3 years, 1 month, 10 days ago for Darian Weeks. It's just Gary's been a little more active with 2 more pro fights in that time. So, yeah, Weeks has got a boxing background and a wrestling background. We've seen him get a lot of takedowns. We've seen him do good work on the ground. And like you said, man, power in the hands. He's just going to have to find a way to close this distance against Gary. He's going to have to find a way to make this dirty. But I mean, at this line, it's very disrespectful to Darian Weeks because Darian Weeks is a very well-rounded mixed martial artist in his own right here. He's not much less experienced than this guy. He's been doing it for the same amount of time. He's got power too. He's got wrestling and the ability to be able to win minutes on the ground as well here. And shit, I mean, he's fought just as good a competition as Ian Gary has. So, with the Barberena name on his resume, the best name on Gary's resume is Rostam Akman, who's a former UFC fighter. And, if you're very uncomfortable seeing excessive body hair on a man, please don't tape that fight because you're going to be terrified and you're probably not going to be able to sleep for a couple of days. But, Gary went through that dude like a hot knife through butter. He made it look really easy against the former UFC veteran. And then, getting a win against a tough Jordan Williams as well. Jack Grant's a good regional scene guy. So, there's a lot of things about both of these guys, Brady, that are actually pretty close here. But you see that line, And it's an 80% implied probability right now for Ian Gary. He's got to win the fight 8 out of 10 times just for you to break even. It seems like a lot to lay for a guy that we haven't seen lose yet. And we have seen lose minutes. He was losing that first round there to Jordan before landing that spectacular counter right in the last 10 seconds of the round. So, yeah, it just feels really, really wide, really disrespectful to Darian Weeks, who I think has got a really bright future and is a good fighter. I think this is going to look closer than Gary minus 400, but I'm leaning Gary.
Yeah, I think you got to lean Gary, but my goodness, I mean, it's Weeks is not a bum by any means. Like, I actually really like a lot of things this guy brings to the table, and I think a lot of people should. Like, he has toughness. He's never been finished, amateur or pro. Is one technically finished loss was a cut doctor stoppage, but he's very tough. He can take a punch. On top of that, he has good wrestling. He has power. He has good cardio. I mean, this guy's good. So, but yeah, Gary's gonna be a much bigger fighter. Lots of hype on this guy, rightfully so. But my man, the strike and defense. He needs to shore that up. If he shores that up, I mean, Gary is very good everywhere. Do you want to shout out Go Flamingo with the $20 dono? Appreciate you, Go, saying midway through a 10-fight parlay. Last 3 fights I've got Petr Yan, I believe you mean Alexander Volkanovski, and Michael Chandler, who's facing Tony Ferguson. Couple of flapjacks on the line. Quick thoughts on those fights and chances of an upset. Job bless. I'll go first. I think Yan gets it done. I think Volkov gets it done. I've taped those fights. I've not taped Chandler Ferguson yet, but I do lean towards Chandler. I think you hit that. Weezy, any thoughts on Jan Volkanovski Chandler? You think this parlay cashes or anything you'd be worried about?
So no, I mean, like, I think Petr Yan might be the best damn mixed martial artist in the world right now. And then like Volkanovski, those performances that he's had in his last 3 fights are so damn good. You know, when you think of, you know, what Ortega looked like against the Korean Zombie, and then you go and look at what Volkanovski did to Ortega on the feet. My God, man, this is it's you gotta love both of those guys and their chance to win. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know because the lines are already really wide. But Chandler's fighting who?
Ferguson, I believe.
Oh yeah, I like that too. Yeah, Ferguson, man, doesn't look the same, but that's going to be a great fight. But yeah, I think Chandler's power is gonna really, you know, make the difference in that particular fight because Tony has relied on his chin for entirely too long, and we're starting to see that chin crack a little bit now, and the ability for him to get stuck on his back too. So yeah, Go Flamingo, that's my dude. I think that parlay is going to cash, and I think you're going to be eating flapjacks that are just drowned in syrup and butter and are absolutely delicious.
Sounds good. And you said that Jan is the best fighter in the world. I think it's a little disrespectful to Parker Porter, man.
Well, I mean, but yeah, Porter's the biggest ass on a fighter, you know, so he's got his own crown, you know, he's got the biggest ass in MMA, but we're going to give best pound for pound fighter overall, or at least I am right now, to Petr Yan. But you know, that can be debated. Biggest ass cannot be debated. That's Parker Porter, 6 days a week and twice on Sundays, and it's Sunday.
Yeah, pound for pound ass. It's Porter, and there's not a close second.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah. You got Norma Dumont somewhere way down the ladder, and maybe right below her, a Tracy Cortez. You know, but it's Porter that takes home that crown for sure.
Yeah, if Porter gets on top of you, you're not getting up.
It's hard, man. Those legs are like tree trunks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's talk about this line a little bit. So it's different on some books. We see minus 385 on FanDuel, but Ian Gary opened up minus 225. He's now minus 360. This is Bet Online. Darian Weeks opened up plus 190. He's currently plus 295. The over-under is set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is minus 170. The under 1.5 is plus 140. I see that over 1.5 is a very popular play this week, and I actually like that quite a bit. I've not played it yet, but you know, it was something I was really considering because of how tough and durable Weeks is. I don't know. At minus 170, over 1.5 is kind of interesting. The over 2.5 is plus 112. Under 2.5 is minus 132. The fight goes to decision, plus 125. The fight doesn't get decision is minus 155. So the fight goes to decision has been getting steamed all week. It actually opened up at plus 170, and now the fight goes to decision is now plus 125. See if there's any props that stick out. Gary by knockout is plus 110. Gary by decision is plus 225. Weeks by knockout plus 600. Weeks by decision plus 750. That's interesting. Weeks by decision plus 750 plus 800. Nothing really sticking out from the prop standpoint other than that over 1.5. I'm not touching Gary at minus 360.
Yeah, they're probably giving you that really fat decision prop because Weeks has never won a decision, you know,
That's
because
true.
he's 100% finish rate in his 5 wins. So maybe that's why that's so wide. But I mean, shit, dude, Darian Weeks almost won a decision against Brian Barberena. So at plus 700, boy,
Yeah.
that's really intriguing there. You got to love those spots where you can just put a tiny bit of money in. If you don't win, you know, it's not the end of your night. But even when it goes to decision, when you're holding the ticket that fat, it's pretty thrilling. So I like to look at some of those wide props like that. And I could see Darian Weeks winning minutes with his wrestling here. And he's landed big shots on dudes before too. And like we said, we saw Jordan Williams land clean on Gary about 3-4 times. And yeah, dude, he was backing up with that chin straight up in the air, kind of like Sean Strickland does. But Strickland's so good with his footwork at getting out of the way. Didn't quite see that level of defense with the feet yet on Gary's part. And we could see Weeks landing a big shot here. And another thing that I don't like about Gary is he is kind of willing to kind of just skirt around the outside of the cage. The optics of that aren't great. And a guy like Weeks is going to fucking pressure you. He's going to use his striking to set up his wrestling entries. And he's got some really nice reactive double legs too that I've seen him get. Timed a couple of really nice ones against Barberena. So yeah, man, I can't endorse Ian Gary at minus 400. That line is entirely too wide. And I'll be looking for ways to play Weeks here with just a tiny bit of money.
Yeah, like Mr. D saying, like Weeks is no bum at all. He's pretty good, but yeah, Gary, I think he's the real deal. Just needs to improve that striking defense. He's still young as well. He's 24 years old. I think he will training at Sanford MMA as well. Let's move on to the next fight. We have 4 fights left, and we have Mackenzie Dern going against Tecia Torres. We have Dern, who is 29 years old, 5'4", with a 63-inch reach. Torres, 32 years old, 5'1", with a 60-inch reach. Dern is going to have the tail of the tape advantage. Dern is going to be 3 years younger. She's going to have a 3-inch height advantage and also a 3-inch reach advantage. Mackenzie Dern, 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She had a submission win over Hannah Cyphers, a submission win against Miranda Marcos, a decision win against the handsome Verna Jandaroba, a submission win against Nina Ansarov, and then a decision loss in a 5-round fight against Marina Rodriguez. As far as Torres, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, a decision loss to Zhang Weili, a decision loss to Marina Rodriguez, a decision win against Brianna Van Buren, a knockout win against Sam Hughes, and then a decision win against Angela Hill. So we have women's MMA here, 115 pounds. Is Torres going to be able to stuff the takedown? I guess is the big thing, because on the feet, it's going to be Torres here. I like the striking of Torres. I like the volume, the speed. Dern's striking has improved, but I think she's going to be at a striking disadvantage here. And then on the mat, obviously, Mackenzie Dern is going to have an advantage over anybody in the division. So can Dern get the fight down to the mat is the big question. Torres on paper has a 58% takedown defense. Dern on paper has a 10% takedown accuracy. And it's always very tough for me, especially breaking down a Mackenzie Dern fight, because if she cannot get the takedown, she's going to lose. If she can't get the takedown, she's going to win. And it's just looking at that 10% takedown accuracy is just always hard. Like, is she going to get it or not? So this is a fight where I'm not going to bet from a money line standpoint, but there is a prop that I do like we'll talk about. But as far as picking a winner, like, I mean, flip a coin. Is like, can Torres stuff the takedown? I think so, but it takes one takedown for Mackenzie Dern. This girl can submit anybody in the world. So in the division. So I like Torres, I guess, but it's a kind of a flip-flop back and forth pick for me, Weezy.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight, right? I mean, you know, you got 2 ladies here who have never been finished. You've got Dern, who's just, you know, one of the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners in all of women's MMA. And you got in Torres, one of the best minute winners in the UFC. A woman who in 9 UFC wins has won 7 of them by decision. So when you've got that many decision wins, it shows that you really know how to win minutes in the cage. And Mackenzie Dern hasn't been particularly great at winning minutes. You know, she finishes fights. She's got 6 wins and 4 of them are by submission. You know, the decision win against Jandaroba. I think there was a decision win earlier in the career. I forget against who. I don't know if it was Cooper, but either way, you know, it's definitely a clash of styles here. So you got to like Torres's speed. You got to like the conditioning of Torres. Her ability to win minutes on the cage is very good. And Mackenzie Dern, yeah, like you mentioned, 3 takedowns in 28 attempts, but she's got 4 submission wins on 3 takedowns. Think about that. 4 submission wins, 3 takedowns. That's 1.33 submission wins per takedown. So it's that kind of thing where you say to yourself, it might only take 1. And guess what? You know what's crazy? Is that Mackenzie Dern got at least 1 takedown against Marina Rodriguez and didn't get a submission. So I believe that there's actually been a portion where like she's gotten, she's getting submission wins without even having to get a takedown. She definitely got the 1 takedown against Ansarov, now Nunez, and finished the fight down there. But yeah, it's just the question of, is Tecia Torres going to be able to keep this on the feet? Tecia Torres in 18 professional fights has never been finished, and she's fighting women with a winning record and losing to women who on an average have a record of 7.8 wins and 3.4 losses, 11.2 total fights, and a 2.3 win-to-loss ratio. So Tecia's fought really good competition and has never been finished. She's not much of a finisher in her own right. But the key stat that you have to look at in any Mackenzie Dern fight is, what is the takedown defense of her opponent? And in this case, Tecia Torres has been taken down 23 times in 14 fights. And in 190 minutes of cage time, she's been controlled for 18% of that cage time. So that would be about 37 minutes of control time that she's yielded on 23 takedowns. So it's one of those scary things. There's probably going to be a point where Dern gets this fight to the ground or gets on Tecia's back, and, you're going to have to really sweat it out for that period of time. But, Tecia's tough, never been finished, like I said before. One of the bets that I really like for this fight is fight goes to decision, and that we've got 7 combined losses, and neither one of these ladies has ever been finished in their 7 losses. It's a 3-round fight. And that Torres has, done a pretty good job of getting back up when she does get taken down from women that aren't like some of the best wrestlers in the division here. What are you thinking of the props on this fight? Are you seeing anything that's sticking out for you?
Yeah, so there's actually we've been talking about it like all week, and I haven't pulled the trigger yet. But yeah, the fight goes decision is sticking out around minus 148. I guess the only concern would be Dern, right? Like Dern, if Dern gets it down to the mat, it's going to be sweaty. Like, and you talked about it. Like Torres has been taken down a lot. She got taken down twice by Angela Hill. She got taken down twice by Brianna Van Buren. She got taken down by Marina Rodriguez. She got taken down twice by Zhang Wei Li. She got taken down 10 times by Jessica Andrade. She got taken down twice by Michelle Watterson. She got taken down by Juliana Lima. She got taken down by Beck Rawlings. She got taken down by Rose twice. So she's been taken down a lot. So like if Dern gets her down to the mat, Dern's very live to finish anybody. I guess that's my one concern in terms of betting the fight goes to decision. But yeah, on paper, like minus 148 just seems off. It seems like it's not wide enough. So that was one thing I was looking at. And then also DraftKings Sportsbook has the finish only for Dern at like minus 225. I think that's hilariously off because Torres has 2 finish wins, 1 by sub, and her only knockout win was that weird stoppage against Sam Hughes. So I was kind of thinking about maybe playing the fight goes to decision and then also playing that Dern finish only, because if there's a finish in this fight, it's most certainly going to be Dern. I'd be shocked if Torres is not going to submit Dern. I'd be shocked if it was like she knocked out Dern or something. I don't see that happening. So I like the Dern finish only minus 225. I think that's not wide enough. And then, yeah, the fight goes to decision is sitting at minus 148 on FanDuel, it looks like. And then on 5 Dimes minus 160, on DraftKings minus 150. The over under open up at 2.5. The over open up at minus 115. That's nice. So I like the fight goes. I like the overs, but I guess Mackenzie Dern submission would be the only thing that scares me. But like I said, maybe hedging with that minus 225 finish only Dern. I just think that's really off.
Yeah, I'll tell you something, man. I just kind of went through the advanced stats here, and I highlighted all the fights where Tecia was taken down, right? And in the fights where Tecia doesn't get taken down, she's 4-1. The only fight that she lost where she didn't get taken down was Joanna Jędrzejczyk. But when she does get taken down, she's got 5 wins, but she's got 4 losses. and they were to Andrade, Jung, Marina Rodriguez, and Rose Namajunas. And the wins that she got were against Waterson, Lima, Beck Rawlings, Brianna Van Buren, and Angela Hill. Ladies not known for, winning fights by accumulating a ton of control time, especially not Rawlings and Hill. Brianna Van Buren kind of, does work for a lot of control time when she fights. But yeah, this is something that does look, as simple as, is Tecia going to be able to keep this girl off of her? And we have to keep in mind that Mackenzie Dern's takedown accuracy is 11%. You've been saying 10. It's actually closer to 11%. So, I mean, I just got to correct you there, Brady. But yeah, 11% is not good enough, right? That's 1 out of 9, so you're going to have to shoot 9 takedowns to get one at that rate. Is it enough to win a fight? Is it enough to win enough minutes of a fight to win a decision? Probably not. And we can feel probably pretty good about this fight going the decision because Mackenzie Dern has not gotten the takedowns that she's shot for, and because neither one of these ladies has been finished. So that does feel like the best way to play this fight. And I think the finish only prop, minus 225 is very interesting for Dern.
Yeah, and then someone said they like the finish only for Dern, and then the Tecia Torres decision only, which I'm not sure what Torres decision only. I think it was like minus 170, something like that, but I don't know. I do like that Dern finish only minus 225 though.
Yeah, because Ticia's just not a finisher, and Mackenzie's never been finished, and she can definitely take a shot. We've seen that in the past. So
yeah, Dern's very tough, and I think the Torres sub, I'd be shocked to say the least. I know we've seen some crazy things in MMA the last couple of years, but I'd be shocked.
I'd be shocked too, man. It would have to be like a death gas situation like Rodolfo Vieira against Fluffy. But yeah, I'm not expecting that, and I won't be betting Tecia Torres by sub this week.
Like a Clay Guida, Leonardo Santos.
Yeah.
Like a Jacare Souza. Like there's been some crazy guys getting submitted lately.
Yeah.
All right, so Torres by submission it is. We both agree. I wonder what that is. Like Torres by submission, it's plus 1,600. Come on.
I mean, that's not even close to juicy enough. Give us 30-1, baby, like Anthony Hernandez against because that you got 30-1 on the sub prop for Hernandez against Vieira. So I mean, it should be at least that, right?
Yeah, that's not good enough. So we'll see what happens though. But yeah, I think Fight Goes is a solid look in that Dern finish only. We have 3 fights left, and we have 3 of the best fights on the card, starting with Chimaev. Burns cannot wait for this one. I think this is probably the most talked about fight this week, and rightfully so. Lots of hype on Khamzat Chimaev, and he's going to be taking a big step up in competition here against Gilbert Burns, who is 35 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach, and Chimaev, 27 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach. Tail the tape massively in favor of Chimaev here. He's going to be 8 years younger. He's going to have a 4-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage as well. Gilbert Burns is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, had a decision win against Gunnar Nelson, a knockout win against Damian Maia, decision win against Tyron Woodley, a knockout loss to Kamaru Usman, and then a decision win against Stephen Thompson. As far as Chimaev, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Obviously, he's undefeated. He had a submission win in his debut against John Phillips. After that, he has a knockout win against Reese McKee, knockout win against John Mearshart, and then a submission win against the Leech. So, like I said, this is going to be a big step up in competition, going from guys like a Reese McKee, John Phillips, Mearshart, to a guy in Gilbert Burns who is very good. He's been improving quite a bit. I think his striking's been looking better. He's dangerous pretty much anywhere the fight goes. Burns has a lot of power on the feet. Remember, he hurt Usman in the first round very bad, knocked out Damian Maia, and then on the ground, his BJJ is just top notch. So, yeah, looking forward to this fight. Looking forward to maybe Chimaev answering some questions in terms of the cardio. Chimaev in 10 professional fights, he's never been over 1.5 rounds. He has been to the second round a couple times, but he's finished those second round fights pretty early there. And I'm curious to see what happens if Chimaev does get extended. But, honestly, I just think stylistically, I know this is a big step up in competition for Chimaev, but stylistically, it seems like a tough matchup for Burns. Like, is Burns going to come out here and take down a much bigger Khamzat Chimaev? I just don't think so. He's going to be able to outstrike a much bigger, much longer Chimaev. I don't really think so. Is Burns going to be able to take the shots of Chimaev on the feet? I really don't think so. I don't like how Burns was reacting to the power of Kamaru Usman, and we know Chimaev has a ton of power. And then in terms of the gas tank, Chimaev's gas tank is a question mark, but I don't think Burns has the best gas tank either. So, the line's crazy, especially considering, I think he's a bigger favorite now than he was against, I don't know, John Phillips, which is nuts. And I think it's only going to get wider, but just stylistically, it's really hard, figuring out, how does Burns win this fight? Like, I think it's going to have to be like a flash knockout. I don't think he subs him. So I do like Chimaev here, but we'll talk about the line. It's getting crazy, but I think Chimaev knocks out Burns in that first round. And I don't think any questions are answered, but I think Chimaev gets a big win on his record and moves up the ranks, Weezy.
Yeah, I mean, the line's telling us that the bookies are pretty confident in this kid. I'm confident in this kid. He's only 27 years old and he's fucking terrifying. I mean, in every aspect of mixed martial arts, this guy is the dude that you see in your nightmares if you're fighting in this weight class. I mean, he looks like a goddamn nightmare. He looks like he should be like working on Rob Zombie films as the dude that tortures people in some hostel in Eastern Europe. I mean, like, this is what this dude looks like. And then you look at the numbers. Dude, the numbers are fucking crazy. When you see a UFC fighter over like a 4-fight sample size and they're landing 3 strikes for every one that their opponent lands, you're like, wow, that's a crazy ratio. Mm-hmm. Well, what is 112 strikes for every one that your opponent lands? I mean, he's outlanding his opponents at a 112-to-1 ratio. He's absorbed 1 significant strike in 4 fights against legitimate guys. Look, Gerald Meerschaert has like 15 fights in the UFC and he's won more of them than he's lost. Li Jingliang is a winner. He's like 10-4 in the UFC. Those are good wins. And the way that he's doing it, like we mentioned, the 112-to-1 significant strike ratio, 77% striking accuracy. He has a knockdown in 4 fights. He's gotten 4 takedowns and accumulated 92.5% control time with those 4 takedowns and has not yielded 1 second of control time. And I'm telling you something right now, Khamzat Chimaev, wherever he is, he's probably pissed that whoever did land that 1 significant strike on him landed it, and he probably is like, I'm never going to let that happen again. And then, as you go back and you watch the pre-UFC footage on Chimaev, this guy was always a step ahead of everybody. And the guys that he's beating in Brave on the regional scene are studs. Kisich is a stud. He's a good fighter. Ikram Aliskerov would be undefeated if it weren't for the fight against Khamzat Chimaev. And Mizwando Holanga is a really good, really dangerous fighter who has only 1 loss on his resume. And that's to this guy, he's absolutely terrifying. And I think that if somebody is going to beat Khamzat, Brady, they would have to have 2 things, and they would have to have them in 10 out of 10 fashion. Number 1 is durability. Number 2 is conditioning, because that's really the only way I see this guy losing, is that he just empties the gas tank trying to get a finish against a really tough opponent who won't go away. And then because this guy cuts so much weight, and because we've never really seen him go deep even into a second round, that maybe he gasses out in the second half of a fight and is able to be finished late after he just absolutely dominates for the first 7-8 minutes. That's the way I see this guy losing. And I don't see Gilbert Burns being terribly durable, and I don't see him having fantastic conditioning. So it's really hard to see him winning this fight, dude. It's probably going to be Khamzat by torturing this poor soul for a good 3-4 minutes before the ref steps in and says enough.
Dude, somebody in the chat brings up a crazy prop. I can't believe I didn't think of this. Fight ends in KO is plus 120. Like, is Chimaev going to submit Gilbert Burns, who's never been subbed? Like, that's interesting, considering the fight doesn't go to decision, is sitting around like minus 240, minus 320 on, yeah. So the fight doesn't go to decision on FanDuel is minus 320, but the fight ends in KO is plus 120. That's nice.
Yeah, and you know why you're getting that is because, actually Khamzat has submitted 2 of his 4 UFC opponents, so he's gotten as many submissions as he has knockouts. So probably the books, because of that, are looking at, the possibility of him just getting that submission or that KO based on his previous wins. So that does stick out. That's a good look. Because, I mean, I'd be shocked if this saw the scorecards. Dude, Khamzat's never seen a scorecards in his life, never even seen a third round.
Yeah, and he's never seen over 1.5. So I get why under 1.5 this week has been a very popular play. And it was actually like plus 115 last week. It's now minus 110. And rightfully so, right? Like, I don't really see this fight getting extended. Honestly, I think this fight probably ends in the first round as well. So yeah, fight ends in a KO. I was not aware of that line until now. So shout out to I wanna get your name so I can shout you out here. But yeah, shout out to who was it? I don't even know. Can't even find it. Oh, there it is. Jay. Shout out to Jay. Fight ends the KO. Yeah, I like that. And then what I was also looking at was Chimaev by KO. So he's minus 650 on the money line, but Chimaev by KO is plus 165. I like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, he might try to make a point by submitting this guy because he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, because Chimaev is just that kind of, he's that dude, you know, like that dude's not scared of anybody, you know? I mean, like if the devil fucking thinks of beating Chimaev in a fight, you better wake up and apologize if it was a dream, because this guy is just, it's hard to see anybody beating this guy. I mean, maybe Colby, maybe Kamaru, but my God, is he terrifying. And I cannot wait to see Khamzat Chimaev in the cage again, man, because this guy is about as exciting of a prospect as we've seen in a very long time.
Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah, my biggest bet of the card on that fight doesn't go to decision. It was one I looked at last week, and I'm probably going to be adding on to like the fight ends in KO and Chimaev by KO. Maybe like Chimaev first round as well. I think Chimaev just starches him early on. I don't think Burns has the durability to take any of his shots on the feet.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is that he's been knocked out in 2 of his 4 losses. And I mean, we've seen this guy one punch Ali Skarov. He one punched Mearshart. This guy's got serious power on the feet. We just don't get to see it because his ground game is so dominant. Yeah, Khamzat Chimaev, man, if he lost this fight, I would be shocked. But, you know, we do need to see him on the scales. We need to see him make weight. Got to make sure he doesn't kill himself to make 171 here. And if he does, if he looks good on those scales, parlay him up, and maybe try to hit some of those props as well.
Yeah, so Chimaev opened up minus what? It's saying on Bet Online Chimaev opened up minus 110.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that because of the algorithms. They're like, oh, he hasn't fought anybody yet, and and Burns is fighting, guys like Usman. So I mean, like sometimes that's how they'll open the line, because their analytics are telling them that Burns has fought the much better competition, that he's more experienced, that he's probably the better grappler. So yeah, I'd love to have gotten Khamzat at minus 110, man. But I didn't.
Imagine betting Chimaev. Imagine having a money line bet of Chimaev at minus 110 right now. But yeah, he's minus 600, and I think it just gets wider and wider. Burns opened up minus 110. He's now plus 425. We talked about the fight goes to decision plus 190. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 240 on Bet Online, minus 320 on DraftKings, minus 225 on DraftKings actually, and minus 320 on FanDuel. The fight won't start round 2, plus 175. Fight won't start round 3, minus 155. Chimaev KO plus 165. Burns by sub plus 1600. Burns by KO plus 1400. Chimaev by sub plus 225. Chimaev by decision plus 250. Burns by decision plus 750. Yeah, I think that Chimaev by KO and then the fight doesn't go probably sticks out to be the most. Anything sticking out for you? Are you parlaying up Chimaev with anything this week, or just probably going to leave it alone?
I'm probably going to be leaving it alone. I'm just really excited to see Khamzat in there again. It's one of those things. If you don't get on it and you really do miss a line that moves that much, you shouldn't be jumping on at this point. You probably shouldn't even be parlaying it. But, if you're a degenerate gambler, it's fun to have money on a guy like Chimaev, because, boy, he really gets it done, and he gets it done in stylistic fashion almost every time. So I'm just looking forward to seeing him fight again. And then I'm looking forward to seeing the champion, Aljamain Sterling, back in action here. I can't believe Petr Yan's this big of a favorite. I didn't watch the first fight, but I see that Aljo won it. So, I mean, why is Yan the favorite here?
Yeah, Aljo finished him actually. Finished him, I believe, in the fourth
Finished
round.
him in the fourth round. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. This is Aljo all day, right?
Fourth round, it was pillar to post Aljo. But yeah, let's talk about it, man. I'm looking forward to this fight. This is probably my second favorite fight on the card, right behind Chimaev Burns. And, the main event's probably my third favorite. But yeah, Petr Yan, Aljamain Sterling, the rematch we've all been waiting for. Sterling, 32 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Petr Yan, 29 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. So Jan's going to be 3 years younger. And then it's going to be Sterling that's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. Sterling, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. A submission win against Cody Stamann, decision win against Jimmy Rivera, a decision win against Pedro Munoz, submission win against Corey Sandhagen, and then that dominating win against Petr Yan at DQ in the 4th round, a legal knee. I'm sure you've all heard about it a million times. Petr Yan, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, a decision win against Rivera, knockout win against Faber, knockout win against Jose Aldo, a DQ loss to Aljamain Sterling, and then he bounced back with a very nice decision win against Corey Sandhagen. So, yeah, I think a big part of this fight is obviously going back and watching the last fight because it was just recently, right? And, funny enough, I was taking a look at the line, like what was Petr Yan in the first fight in terms of the line. And on some books, he was even plus money, but it looks like Petr Yan closed at plus 100. No, he closed at where is it? Yeah. So Petr Yan closed at plus 100, which is very interesting considering now he is sitting around minus 450. And the reason why is, like you said, Weezy, you go back and watch the fight and see how it played out. And I thought Sterling came in with like the worst game plan possible. Like Sterling came in and landed a ton of strikes early on in the first round. And he kind of went like balls to the wall early on, trying to finish Yan early, which it's just not what you want to do against Petr Yan, who's a guy that kind of grows into the fight. There's a good chance that Yan is going to even lose the first round of this fight. He loses a lot of first rounds. It's kind of a feel out process for him, but I don't think there's nobody better than a guy like Yan that he just grows into the fight. He gets better and better. The volume continues to go up in each and every single round. Like we go back and watch their first fight, Aljamain Sterling actually outlands Petr Yan 27-14 in the first round. But we see as the fight goes on, Jan's volume starts, compiling up, and he's even mixing in takedowns as well. Yan took down Sterling 7 times, and believe it or not, Yan was 7 for 7 in terms of getting takedowns, 100%. And we do see that Sterling does have a very poor 41% takedown defense. A lot of that is because he's confident in his ground game, and as he should be. But not much to say here. I think Petr Yan is going to win this fight. I think he's honestly maybe even going to finish Sterling as the fight goes on. I think, early on, it's going to be very competitive, especially if Sterling comes in here with a better game plan, which I think he will. Maybe a more patient approach, not going balls to the wall early. You're not going to be able to keep up with Yan if you do that. But I think early on, it's going to be competitive. I think Sterling probably wins the first round. I think from a live betting standpoint, I'm going to be looking at maybe getting Petr Yan at a better price after the first round. But as the fight goes on, I think the volume is going to add up. Petr Yan's very dangerous. He's going to mix in takedowns. He's going to get Sterling tired. And I think he either wins those last few rounds, wins a decision, or I think he can even finish Sterling late. So I like Petr Yan here. No hot take for me. I think Yan probably gets it done in the 4th or 5th round. Weezy, what do you think of this co-main event here?
Yeah, I can't wait for it, man. I've been waiting for this rematch for a very long time. I'm such a huge fan of both of these guys. They're both really exciting. But, Petr Yan's just on another level. You watch this guy, and it's like watching a computer fight. He just downloads all the information that you give him early in the fight. And as every minute goes by, he's turning up the pressure a little bit. He's landing more strikes. He's way more defensively responsible than you. The takedowns can come. The ground and pound can come. He's so good everywhere. And Aljo, you look at his numbers, and they're absolutely fantastic. 63% striking defense, 50% striking accuracy. He lands more than 2 significant strikes for every 1 that he absorbs, which is a much better ratio than Petr Yan. And then he's out controlling his opponents on the ground 29.5% to 18.5%. So he does a really good job of winning minutes on the ground. And he's got a great submission game, having subbed 4 of his 12 UFC wins and 8 of his 20 career wins are all by submission. So the guy's, obviously very good on the ground and has the ability to be able to finish fights there. But Petr showed that he's not afraid of Aljamain's ground game. Took him down 7 times in the first one. And Sterling is not a guy that gets takedowns at a very high percentage here. He's getting them at less than a 25% clip. So that's a problem here, because Petr Yan's showing 90% takedown defense over a 9-fight sample size. And he came in known as the boxer. So everybody's been trying to take this guy down. 48 takedown attempts that he's seen in 9 fights. So, this guy's used to people shooting on him. And frankly, he's allowed less than 6% control time against, in a 9-fight sample size, 137 minutes in the cage. So in almost 140 minutes, this guy's been controlled for maybe 7 minutes on 5 takedowns and 48 attempts. So how does Aljo win minutes here? He's probably going to have to win him on the feet, because it's going to be very difficult for him to get top control against a guy as defensively responsible and as good a takedown defense as Petr Yan has here. So you really do have to see Sterling coming in with a new game plan and a couple of new wrinkles here to try to surprise Petr Yan, but I'm not sure how he's going to do that. He's either going to have to turn into a D1 wrestler that can spam takedowns, do it for 5 rounds, and every time he does get a takedown, accumulate a ton of control time and threaten submissions. But that's not really his game, man. 30% control time is really good, but we saw when he goes up against somebody with the kind of takedown defense that Yan has, that he just doesn't have the ability to win minutes on the ground. And even you have to go back a few fights to see a guy like Brian Caraway winning a ton of minutes on the ground against him. I know it was a little while ago, but still, man, it's hard to see Sterling without short of making massive improvements in the time off. And I don't know if that's really possible, because a lot of people are saying that he's been putting this off. He hasn't been putting this off. He had a neck injury and the doctors wouldn't clear him. He just wasn't getting cleared. This isn't him trying to dodge it. It's the doctors weren't even letting him back into the cage. So I don't know how hard he was training during this time off with this serious neck injury. So it's really hard to see any other, result other than Petr Yan getting his hand raised on Saturday. What do you see?
Yep, I'm right there with you. Like I said, no hot take. I think Yan wins this fight. It's just how do you bet this fight, right? Like, we have Yan, who, like I just said, Yan closed at plus 100 in their last fight, and he's now minus 450. Like, and people are saying in the chat, like, Sterling does look in the best shape he's ever had before. Like, this guy Sterling looks completely jacked. So maybe he does come in here. I think it will probably be closer than the first fight, but in a same result. I think Yan wins this fight, whether it is a decision or whether it is a late finish. I kind of like the 4-5 decision for Petr Yan. I think I saw it at like minus 150, something like that. I think it's better than the minus 450 money line. So I like the 4-5 decision. I like the 3-4-5 round sprinkles. I think that's the only way I'd really play it, though, because I'm not going to go out there and play 4.5 units to win 1 on Petr Yan, 4.8 units to win 1 on FanDuel. And then as far as the fight goes, I really don't have a strong take. I think it probably goes to decision, but like I said, I can see a late finish for Yan. The fight goes as minus 120. The fight doesn't go as minus 110. I think that's about right. The over under looks like it's set at 4.5 rounds. The over 4.5 is minus 125. The under 4.5 is minus 105. Looking at some other props, Sterling by KO plus 1,600. Sterling by sub plus 1,000. Yan by KO plus 150. Yan by submission plus 800. Yan by KO, I guess that's not the worst look in the world. Anything sticking out to you from a prop perspective? Like, I could see this fight playing out a couple different ways. I can see a Yan decision. I could see a Yan late finish.
Yeah, that's the way I would look. Yan 4-5 decision would probably be the way that I would play it. And I think Yan by KO is definitely live. We've seen Sterling KO'd once in his 3 losses. And, obviously Yan, almost a 50% finish rate by KO, 44% by KO, 6% by sub. So even though Yan isn't a prolific finisher, it's a 5-round fight. And this guy, his striking is very tough to hang with for 25 minutes. So, yeah, I would go with that 4-5 decision. What is the 4-5 decision for Yan right now on FanDuel?
Yeah, it's minus 180 now. Like,
yikes. Yeah. Oh man. I'm probably just gonna have to sit back and enjoy this because this line is so damn blown out. I don't feel the need to chase. I think one of the things that one of the reasons I've been really successful thus far in 2022 is I've just been looking for value. I want value. I want something that sticks out in terms of me getting some kind of advantage on that line. And I'm looking for people's best win conditions and trying to bet those win conditions when they're a significantly percentage priced lower besides just the money line here. And Jan is so good everywhere. He can win minutes. He can land big shots. It doesn't seem fair to try to pick it. And when you're paying minus 180 for 4-5 decision, it's hard to be profitable when you got to be right 66% of the time, and you're removing the first 3 rounds of the fight, saying if this guy gets it done, then I'm out 1.8 units to win one. So yeah, I'm probably just have to sit back and enjoy this one.
Yeah, I think so as well. That's minus 180 is a little up there. I did see that somebody has it minus 110 on Ladbrokes. I like the minus 110, but I do not have access to the Ladbrokes there. But if you do, I think it's a solid way to look at it. Jan to win in round 3 is plus 900. Jan to win in round 4 plus 1200, and then Jan to win in round 5 is plus 1800. So they're not juicing him up that much, but I think that's kind of where I'd look if I was to play this fight. But nothing really like sticking out to me here.
Yeah, me neither. Other than the obvious talent of both of these guys, and then I can't wait to see this. We've been waiting for so long for this rematch. It's finally here. Can't wait to see it.
Oh, yes, for sure. But we'll go to our main event here right now. Me and Weezy will be on the MMA Engine YouTube channel breaking down the main event, doing the main event deep dive tomorrow evening. So check us out on the MMA Engine. We'll be going through that, talking about it from a betting perspective and going a lot deeper. But right now we have Volkanovski, 33 years old, 5'6" with a 71-inch reach. Korean Zombie, 35 years old, 5'7" with a 72-inch reach. Volkanovski is 33 years old. He's going to be 2 years younger. He's going to have a 1-inch height disadvantage, and then he's going to have a 1-inch reach disadvantage as well. So Volkanovski is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Chad Mendes, a decision win against Jose Aldo, a decision win against Max Holloway, decision win against Max Holloway once again, the second fight being a lot closer, decision win against Brian Ortega just as of late. Korean Zombie, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. That knockout loss to Pierrot Rodriguez with like a second left, a knockout win against Renato Moicano, a knockout win against Frankie Edgar, a decision loss to Brian Ortega, and then a decision win against Dan Ige. So we have the main event here. It was supposed to be Alexander Volkanovski against Max Holloway 3, which I was actually really looking forward to seeing that fight. Max Holloway did pull out due to an injury, and in steps the Korean Zombie, which I do think the Max Holloway fight would have been a lot more competitive than this one. So the Korean Zombie did come back from a little bit of a layoff after that Edgar fight. I think it was like a year layoff, right? And then he comes back against Brian Ortega. Ortega was coming off like a massive layoff. And I remember I had a bet on the Korean Zombie. I was like so confident in it. And Brian Ortega went out there and like 50-45 the Korean Zombie. I was shocked with what I was seeing. Like Brian Ortega made so many improvements. He looked very, very good. And then it just looked like the Korean Zombie was off that night. It looked like he was maybe washed, and he looked so bad that night that the odds makers actually made the Korean Zombie a dog against Dan Ige. And I know me and you, Weezy, we took advantage of that. But Korean Zombie is now 35 years old. He's getting up there. He's taken a lot of damage. He did that really long layoff like years back. So he has not like been extremely active in the UFC, but he has been in a lot of wars, thus far. Alexander Volkanovski, this guy's the real deal. This guy's the full package. He has it all. He has the wrestling. He has the grappling. He has the grappling defense that he showed off in his last fight against Brian Ortega. My goodness, I was there live, and I had Volkanovski by decision. I also had Volkanovski to close a 10-leg parlay, and I thought Ortega was going to submit him a couple times in that fight, but he was able to survive that. I mean, the grappling defense is great. The fight IQ is phenomenal. This guy has some of the best fight IQ you ever see. But most importantly, the volume. Like, not many people go out there and out volume Max Holloway. This guy has done it twice. So, I mean, there's just a lot of things to like about Volkanovski. The Korean Zombie, what I will say is he's very dangerous, but it's just, how does he win this fight? Like, he's not going to go out there and take down Volkanovski like he did against Dan Ige. He's not going to out-grapple Volk. He's not going to go out there and outstrike Volkanovski for 25 minutes. That's not going to happen. For the Korean Zombie to win this fight, he's going to have to knock out Volkanovski, and I just don't think it's going to be that easy. So yeah, you look at the line, and Volkanovski's like minus 800, which is nuts. It's a little disrespectful, but it's just really hard for me personally to see a path to victory for the Korean Zombie. I mean, he went out there and got 50-45 against Brian Ortega, and then just recently we saw Volkanovski go out there and it was 49-46, 50-45, and then even a 50-44. Volkanovski just put on a masterclass against Brian Ortega there. So I think Volkanovski wins this fight. Again, no hot take here for me. I think he's a big favorite for a reason. You can't really touch the minus 800. I don't really know how he wins. I think he could win a decision. Maybe he can finish the Korean Zombie, but I'm leaning more towards the decision. And even the decision prop is like minus 170, something crazy like that. But yeah, I like Volk here. I think he gets it done. I don't think it's going to be really competitive. Maybe Zombie has moments here or there. Maybe he lands a big shot, but outside of a flash knockout, I think Volk gets this one. Weezy, what do you think about this one? I think you're muted.
Yeah, I'm definitely muted. All right. So yeah, if you look at like the tail of the tape, the pro experience, the UFC experience, the numbers are very similar for both of these guys, but it's just that, you see where they're both at this point in their career, and you watch, Volkanovski fight Ortega, and you watch the Korean Zombie fight Ortega, and, Ortega's striking looked spectacular against the Zombie, and it looked not very good against Volkanovski, and that's what Volkanovski does. This is a guy who has won 2 striking-based decisions over 10 rounds with Max Holloway, one of the greatest boxers in the sport. So it's like you say, it's very, very difficult to find a path here for Korean Zombie. 10 fights for Alexander Volkanovski in the UFC, and he's been knocked down 1 time. He lands almost 2 significant strikes for every 1 that he absorbs, Volkanovski. He out-takedowns his opponents 19-8. And despite out-takedowning his opponents at like a 2.5-to-1 ratio, he's out-controlling his opponents at like an 8-to-1 ratio. I mean, so he's efficient in the ground exchanges. He's been taken down 8 times, but in 161 minutes, he's been controlled for about 5 of them. 5 minutes that Volkanovski has yielded in control time in 10 UFC fights. So is Zombie going to take him down and win minutes there? No, probably not. Is he going to submit him there? I mean, Alexander Volkanovski has gills, for Christ's sake. There's nobody that would have gotten out of that guillotine choke that Ortega had him in. That guy has got to be breathing out of his ribs during that exchange. I don't know how he got out of that, but I don't see, this guy Zombie knocking down Volkanovski or knocking him out. He would have to land a very big shot. And Volkanovski is just too good. He's too defensively responsible. He throws so much more volume. He never gets knocked down. His striking defense is over 60%, despite the fact that he's been 10 rounds in the cage with Max Holloway. And this guy is still, got over 60% striking defense. He just does everything really well. And then if you even look at the strength of schedule, it's still Volkanovski. He's got better wins. He's got better overall fights. And Korean Zombie's losing to guys that have worse records than Volk. You got to figure that Volk gets the job done here. But is it a bettable line? No. Volkanovski's been finishing his only loss. I don't know what year that was. That was a very long time ago. And Zombie's been finished in 3 of his 6 losses. So maybe you try to bet the fight doesn't go and get a little value there if Volkanovski gets a knockout. But man, this is one I just have to stay away from. It feels like there's no way for Zombie to win this fight, and the line is priced as such.
Yep, we have a Volkanovski who is minus 800. He opened up minus 330, and then the Korean Zombie opened up plus 270. He's now plus 500. Volkanovski, the biggest favorite on the card. The fight goes to decision, minus 155. The fight doesn't go to decision. It's sitting at plus 125. Some props that kind of stuck out. I think Volkanovski by KO could be interesting. I mean, it's a lot better than like laying the minus 800, but Volk by KO is plus 240. Zombie has been KO'd, I think, 3 times in his career. I don't hate the Volk by KO. I see that on FanDuel, the fight ends in KO is like plus 180 as well. I don't hate that. The 4-5 decision for Volkanovski. I know for Petr Yan, it was crazy, but The 4-5 decision for Volkanovski is sitting at, believe it or not, minus 210 for the 4-5 decision. I mean, it's just unbettable. They're all over it. But I think 4-5 decision would have been a great way to look at it. But I like Volkanovski. I think probably decision. Korean Zombie is very durable, but again, he has been knocked out 3 times. I think if anything, it's probably just a shot on the KO prop for Volk, or like the fight ends in KO. But I think it's just gonna be smart. Just stay back. Watch this one. It's gonna be a great fight. I think Volkanovski probably makes this look easy. I think it's like a 50-45 situation. One other thing I'll say is they have Volkanovski to win by decision at minus 140, but they actually have, or minus 150, they actually have Volkanovski to win by unanimous decision at plus money, plus 110. I think that's interesting. I just really don't see Zombie winning minutes. I don't see him winning rounds unless, like, I don't know, a blind judge, just randomly gives it to Zombie for some reason. I think the UNAM at plus money is kind of a decent way to look. How are you going to attack this from a betting perspective, if anything at all?
Probably not at all, just because the one thing that sticks out in my mind is, remember Sean Strickland just walking away over Jack Hermanson for 5 rounds, and then it wound up a split decision? And you're like,
Yes.
wait, what? A split decision? Dude, he 49-46 that dude at worst. You could have made a case it was 50-45. So, when you do those, by unanimous decision, it's almost like that Sal D'Amato there is going to be walking out with those big sacks of money with the dollar signs on them for being the one that actually scores it 48-47 for Zombie in a clear wipeout for Volkanovski. Mm-hmm. So I don't get involved in those unanimous decision, split decision type props, man, because the judges, I just, it's such a traumatizing way to lose bets, isn't it, Brady? If there's nothing worse, I mean, like, sometimes you go out there and you pick a guy and that guy just goes out there and he gets his fucking ass shaved. It wasn't his night. And you say, well, boy, did I get that one wrong. But when you're right, when you put in all the research, when the fight takes place exactly like you think it's gonna, and then those judges, they steal it from you, man, there's no worse feeling in the world. This line is unbettable. This should be Volkanovski all day long, but I'm not betting him at minus 800 here. I'm going to sit back and enjoy a very high level fight between 2 really good featherweights here.
Do you want to parlay up Chimaev, Jan, Volkanovski, and Ian Gary for not even plus money?
Ooh, yeah, 4-leg parlay. Yeah. It's about, no, I'll tell you something. You want to find out how to succeed in sports betting? It's 4-leg parlays or more where you're paying juice to parlay all 4. Boy, oh boy, is Vegas going to love you. You'll get free rooms in Vegas. They'll fly you out there to bet and shit. They'll even send whores to your room because you are going to get absolutely murdered fucking parlaying 4 dudes and getting minus money. So no thanks, Brady. I will be staying away from that one. But I can't wait to see all these dudes fight, man. I mean, Petr Yan, Ian Gary, Volkanovski, and Chimaev, man. I mean, these guys are the cream of the crop. I can't wait to see all of these dudes fights, and they all got quality opponents, man. It's going to be a hell of a UFC 273 card. This is the way we deserve to be rewarded after having to take a week off.
Yep, I totally agree. I mean, like I said, this card has been like changed around so much. Like we were supposed to have Kelvin Gastelum, Dricus du Plessis. We were supposed to have Alexey Oleynik, Ilir Latifi. We were supposed to have Dricus versus Anthony Hernandez, Duraev versus Hernandez, Dricus versus Chris Curtis. We were supposed to have Gastelum, Imavov, Irene Aldana, Aspen Ladd, Pat Sabatini, Gavin Tucker was supposed to be on this card as well. So this card has been changed up a ton, but yeah, this card's still very, very good. I think it is a pay-per-view worth purchasing, especially with those 3 fights up top. I'm curious to see what the 5th fight's going to be, whether it is Gary Weeks or that Rosenstruck fight. But yeah, it's a great card all around. No complaints from me. So we did it, Weezy. We had a lot of people in the chat tonight. Thank you all so much for hanging out. If you guys can leave a like on your way out, it does help out a ton to the channel. Subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Weezy, let everybody know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week. I know you're probably excited to get right back into making a lot of content.
Oh, hell yeah, man. So I mean, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. I do a full card breakdown every Tuesday night at 10 o'clock Central Time. And I also do balls deep breakdowns of fights. I'll be doing one on the MMA Engine channel on Monday night, and I'll be doing another one on my channel Wednesday night. You can find me on Pub Sports Radio every single Sunday that there's a UFC card on for Stat Diggers, every Wednesday for the DFS show. Thank each and every one of you guys for spending your Sunday night with Brady and I. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 273, you guys.
Sounds good. Sounds good. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. You can find me here on Pub Sports Radio on Sundays and on Wednesdays for the DFS show coming up. And then also you can find me on the MMA Engine. I'll be on there with Weezy tomorrow evening. And then I'll be doing other content on there as well. So check us out at the MMA Engine. And then you can follow me on my channel, DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown prediction video will be out sometime tomorrow evening. So before we get out, let's read a dono from the GOAT. Tajik Bey Sal D'Amato is the best judge in the game, future UFC Hall of Famer, in my opinion. I completely disagree, but if the GOAT says it, it must be correct, right, Weezy?
It must be correct. I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but it's going to be the Las Vegas mob that hangs up Sal D'Amato's picture on their wall of fame of the most corrupt judges that won them the most money. But man, it's Tajik Bey saying it. You got to love that cat. Thanks for the donation, Tajik, man. We always appreciate you, brother.
Shout out to Tajik Bey, and shout out to all of you guys hanging out tonight. Thank you so much. Leave a like on your way out, subscribe, all the good stuff. We'll talk to you very soon, and good luck for UFC 273. Let's make some money, guys.